Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. You guys seem to really like the interview series, and I had a lot of requests, so obviously we've got Legend on screen, and my cat too. But how are you doing, Legend?
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. It is 4 a.m., so I'm just going to put a little bit of a disclaimer here. If you guys see me yawning and stuff, I'm not being rude, I'm just really, really tired, because people like to nitpick. But yeah, so my cat also wants to say hi. It's one of these things. So main process about these things is just to talk about people in the community and just talk about the situation going on. Uh, you've been in the front line because obviously you did do Shadows of Change stuff and so on. Uh, how are you feeling about the situation right now?
It's a bit bleak. I mean, it's definitely recoverable. Um, I think just about every channel's taken a hit because of Shadows of Change. I know mine has. But usually when this kind of stuff happens, I just have to work harder. So that sort of compensates it a bit. But some people are already working at maximum capacity all the time anyway, like yourself. Um, it's not a good situation. It'd just be better if, see, I didn't do the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. I've been noticing like a lot of channels have either been working really hard to like keep momentum going. A lot of people don't seem to understand this, obviously, because they might not be in the YouTube, back office and stuff. But these things, when a shit show like this happens, it kind of kills discoverability for channels because nobody's searching for Total War. At least it's cut by a massive percentage now, and I think a lot of channels are either like going overtime, like you said, or some of them are just like slowing down to a snail's pace. They are kind of burning out, which is worrying. I don't know.
Yeah. That's usually how it goes. You either go full throttle or kind of give up. Neither's really ideal.
And now that obviously we're done, we've been getting like what a patch, sorry, a hot fix every like week or so. Well, sometimes I think the last one was what seven was about 9-10 days or something. Do you think that that's helping, or do you think that's just them on the panic button?
That's just them on the panic button for the most part. I mean, some of the things in the patch notes aren't even getting done. They're just panicking. I think it was a case of that they saw people wanted more patches, so they've tried to get more patches out, but I don't think these patches are enough considering the state the game is in. There are now too many issues. It's like the straw that's breaking the camel's back. There's always been issues in Total War Warhammer, all the way through one and two, but Warhammer 3 just suffers from more issues.
Yeah. So we know now, obviously, because a few devs have been outright speaking about it. When devs work on like a DLC, they're not on the same builds that we are. They're actually further behind. It's something that obviously is doing a lot more damage than expected, isn't it?
I'm not sure if that's doing a ton of damage because there's not that much difference lately between the different patches between 4.0 and 3.0 and 2.0. There's not a huge amount of difference. It's mostly just balancing changes. A couple of bugs get fixed, more bugs get introduced.
Yeah.
So let's just say, hypothetically, the people who are working on Thrones of Decay right now, they're still working on like patch 3.1. Well, that means they're working with better AI for one thing.
That's true. The AI is progressively getting worse, and it's kind of weird.
I think one of the problems that they're facing right now is tech debt. I think that Warhammer 3 has reached the limit of what that engine can do. They either need to tidy up the code a lot or this is just as far as it's going to get because I think they want to implement better AI because they get criticized for it a lot. But I think that every time that they add in a new behavior to the AI, it just makes the whole thing break.
Yeah, that could be true. It's because I go into the game files a lot. I'm not sure if you do too, but there are so many things which are pretty redundant, and I'm not sure if they're just too scared that maybe removing some very old source code might just break everything else.
That's possible. I can't speak on the behalf of the devs. I don't go into the game files myself personally. I just listen to what people like yourself say about the game files, and it's usually consistent across the board between yourself and modders. So I tend to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, and I mention it every time possible because it is like it's always been my white whale is naval battles, and then finding out that the unit cards were there. There is very faint like writings in the source code, obviously that they wanted to do it, and it's like, god damn, man, like having naval battles in Warhammer might have been horrible, but it would have been funny, you know? And it's there, it's
Yeah,
still
I'm on
there.
the other end of that spectrum where I'm sort of like, yeah, this is one area that I'll give Creative Assembly some slack. I'm kind of glad that they didn't attempt naval battles in Warhammer.
Hmm.
They probably scrapped it fairly early. It's probably on their agenda to begin with. See, from my understanding, whenever they make a game, a Total War game, they come up with all these mechanics, and then as the development goes along, these just get cut, and new ones don't get introduced.
Hmm.
I reckon if they had stuck to their guns and kept going with naval battles, the game would have come out later, or other areas would have been way less polished, which that's hard to believe, but I don't think the naval battles would have been good unless Creative Assembly is willing to invest more in these games and have more like experienced teams work on them.
Yeah.
I don't think that sending out half-assed mechanics that don't really add anything to the game, especially with Warhammer 1, you take that into consideration, there wasn't really that much naval opportunity in the first place. Most of
No,
it
it's
was
not.
landlocked. With Warhammer 2, on the other hand, that would have been good for naval battles because it was 4 different continents. Warhammer 3 didn't need naval battles, at least not until Immortal Empires. So it's not something that's needed consistently across the board. So it was one thing that it could be justified being cut. Avatar Conquest, on the other hand, why the hell did they cut that? They were working on it for Warhammer 3. That seems stupid.
Yeah, when it comes to it seems like a lot of stuff gets cut. The thing for me for the naval battles thing, and I'm just gonna like go here before we jump onto the Avatar Conquest stuff, is a lot of people like kind of bitch that there's no balance for like Total War at the moment and so on. It's like if you guys think that that's not balanced, you should have seen the like Man O' War, the tabletop game like for the naval battles. There was no way in hell this was ever going to be balanced. So I'm kind of glad. It's just annoying that the files are still in game. But
I
with
think I think with Warhammer, I mean, you can ask for balance all you want. I think getting such a variety of different unit types and just the distinct nature of each race to get a perfect balance between them is practically impossible.
yeah,
Oftentimes, just due to the way the game system works, an army is going to win or lose based on its army composition, and the balance just doesn't really matter that much. And since the vast majority of players don't really play multiplayer, it's not a huge priority for Creative Assembly. I think what's more important with a game like Warhammer, it's a game of spectacle. So making things look cool and having new toys to play with is kind of more important than making sure that everything is exactly where it should be in the unit roster, which is just it's just not likely to happen
yeah.
with a company like Creative Assembly.
Well, it seems like it was alluded that the player numbers for multiplayer might be higher than we actually think, considering obviously Ballant a few days ago, when I asked, he said, well, it's actually a bit higher than you think. It's like, oh, okay. Which kind of brings me point to the content there. What he alluded to was kind of like a battle net. I'm not sure if you played Warcraft 3 back in the heyday.
I played a little bit.
Yeah, so BattleNet was like it was the way to get in to do multiplayer battles, custom maps, and just ladders and so on. It was supposed to be like a feature with proper chat logs and everything. And it's kind of funny that we lost that before this game came out. They decided to kill off the actual concept of it. And then we lost the chat anyway, so we lost most of the multiplayer stuff. I'm not a multiplayer guy, I know that you're not either, but it does seem like a real chunk of the community just got hurt there.
Yeah, it does. But like I said, it's not something that I really pay that much attention to. I don't really feel like any Total War game, except for maybe Shogun 2 and to some degree Attila, had particularly good multiplayer. So I just tend not to play things that just don't feel right.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. I still feel that they were trying, especially with like the domination mode and stuff, to try and turn this into an esport, though. Like, it really feels like it, you know?
Well, if they wanted to turn it into an esport, they needed a much better launch, so that didn't happen.
Yeah. They needed someone, obviously, behind the scenes that was also quite good at the esports lingo and so on, which Kind of makes me
Well,
miss.
they've got Turin for that. Turin's amazing at esport lingo,
Yeah.
and they probably would have worked with him. They've got a good relationship with Turin, so you've got the required element in the community to have an esport,
Mm.
but I don't think you've got the right drive or attitude from the developers. In order to make an esport, the game has to be very popular, or else it's just not going to make money, and it needs to be incredibly balanced, or as much as it possibly can be.
Mm.
You can always just have rules with your esport. Don't use this particular unit because it's broken, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
They need to invest a lot more in order to ensure an esport.
Mm.
I don't know if it was really their plan with Warhammer 3 to make it an esport, um, but it was never going to work with its current state.
No, no, at all. I mean, the state of the game isn't good. We're seeing players leave. We're seeing modders leave too. I know it's not a big thing for you, but it is for me when I'm seeing
Well,
people.
no, I don't use a lot of mods, but I
Mm.
know the value of mods. So when modders leave, when
Mm.
anybody leaves the community, that's not a good thing because I can see that the number of people playing Total War Warhammer is going down just slowly over time,
Yeah.
and that makes me worry quite a lot, regardless of who it is, whether it's a multiplayer channel, a mod, or a single player channel. It's all a concern.
Yeah, I mean, I've been noticing it a lot, and it is kind of concerning because, again, from looking at from like the modders' perspective and so on, we had a big exodus of them right at the launch of Warhammer 3. A few of them came back, but not all of them, and now we're starting to see a few of them kind of burn out, and it does kind of worry me, especially when we look towards obviously more our scene, which is like content creators, streamers, and so on. It's very noticeable that people are like burning out. They're not covering this. They're either going to other titles, they're stopping altogether, or they're pushing to the point that they're just trying to work as hard as possible. That's going to give them problems. It's going to make them burn out properly, you know?
Yeah, I know a little thing about being burnt out.
Yeah.
Um, that is the situation. Yeah. And only Creative Assembly can sort of rectify it. We as a community can band together, and which we are starting to do a lot more than usual,
Hmm.
and that's great. But there's only so much we can do to keep it held up together.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they need to improve the game or release a new game. Unfortunately, that's sort of the only reality of it.
The problem is like it's very obvious that this is a cash cow, right? Like the Warhammer series has been big,
No,
big
what are you
money.
talking about? They are just passionate Warhammer fans. They're not nickel and diming us and milking us for all the money. Come
Yeah.
on, don't be so cynical.
Well, if they were passionate Warhammer fans, the game would work as intended. But it's just why are
It's
they?
premium.
Yeah, it's well. I mean, Shadows of Change had that title there, which God, that was disgusting when I read that blog. It's like, why would you call it that? Just DLC. You don't have to put that word there. It just makes it
Well, it
worse.
was a desperate attempt to try to get people to swallow the changes, the Shadow of Change DLC and the price, just by using marketing lingo. They were running out of options.
Yeah,
It's pretty obvious, though,
yeah.
that they were pretty desperate to get this across the line, that they needed people to buy it at $25.
Mm.
So it does lead me to believe that this price increase was to cover up the failure of Hyenas.
It does feel
At
that
least
way.
somewhat. No, it's never going to fully replace it.
Oh yeah, I mean, there have been talks around about how much money has actually been put into Hyenas, which is a lot of money. Like I asked a few friends that work in game dev at other studios, and they were like, "Wow, that's a lot of cash." It's like I don't know. Apparently, they thought it was
Yeah,
going to work.
well, the interesting thing about that is it is a lot of cash, but most of it was just due to poor management. Like, you could have made Hyenas much cheaper if you had, for one thing, decided early on what engine to put it on. But they switched engines, they faffed about. It's because they had no real leadership. Voland has a really good video on what went wrong with Hyenas.
Mhm.
I'd encourage, if you're interested in how the hell can you blow $100 million on a game like that, go and check out that video because he's spoken to ex-CA devs, because they're getting fired now, so they're free to talk to people and they'll talk to anyone who will tell the story. Because these people, they've worked on a game for 6 years, and that game is never going to see the light of day. Imagine working for someone for 6 years,
Yeah.
and you got paid low wages or whatever, and it's just never going to see the light of day. Those employees, ex-employees now, I guess, would be so pissed. They at the very least want to get their story out, and I think that they should be able to get their story out. That's the least that we could do for them.
Yeah, the problem is that they have to do it in a kind of sly way, not obviously releasing names and so on, because we know it's not much CA here, but I believe Sega is one of those vindictive companies that usually ends up.
Oh yeah, anonymity is really important. We can't ever name any of the CA devs. They've always got to use code names and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But the thing is, because there's such a mass firing of them, there's no way for any of them to get pinned down. And as long as they don't reveal specific information that can identify them,
yeah,
then it should be fine for them. But yeah,
yeah.
it's really important that we protect their privacy.
Yeah, I do get worried because it does seem like it's going to be quite a big firing, and it does seem like people from other departments, like for example, closer to home for us, and maybe other studios are also now feeling that the hammer is coming down. I've been kind of hearing a little bit of whispers saying that they're just trying to see how much they can cut costs and so on, whilst also trying to save as many jobs as possible. It's like, well, you've got a bunch of people like on the upper levels of the company who are clearly not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Fuck them off, right?
Oh, you can't get rid of executives. What are you talking about? They didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah,
Anything wrong?
the office needs a fucking seat warmer. Apparently, it scares me that, like you said, these people have been working for a long, long time. I didn't like Hyenas. I'll be honest with you, and I think the grand majority of us in the Total War sphere didn't, but a lot of people did put a lot of passion into it. Hell, even like Balance, who didn't work on that, he said it's like the game was solid, and it's someone that I trust his in a gameplay point of view, not like everything else, but like I trust his words when he says it, because this is a guy who knows what he's doing, right? And it's like, well, if he says that the gameplay was good, it's just everything else that went wrong. It's like,
Well, that really is the crux of Hyenas. You can make a functional game, let's just call it a functional game,
yeah,
and it can be an absolute failure. Alternatively, you can make a completely non-functional game and it can be a smash hit. It's all about reading the market. So Creative Assembly went outside of their core competencies and made a game that there is just no passion or leadership behind. The theme behind it is cringe. This whole attitude looter shooter where it just reeks of consumerism, like
yeah,
worshipping like capitalism in some sort of sick way, show those billionaire bastards who's boss, which ironically the
yeah,
game did. It showed those billionaire bastards who's boss. So that's a big thing. The game was so not self-aware, made it look like Creative Assembly was taking the piss out of itself, and I think a lot of people could see that. So I reckon the game failed more on its own theme and lack of identity, and the fact that they didn't do anything like particularly adventurous with it, because there's nothing in Hyenas that isn't being done elsewhere. So if you can't be, there's an old saying, if you can't be first, which it definitely isn't, be best, and it's not best. It's an oversaturated market. So they went with being mediocre in an oversaturated. I don't know what they were thinking. It
yeah.
doesn't make sense.
I mean, it definitely came out too late. Like, let's be honest, it came out like 4 years too late.
Yeah, even people when it was first announced, they said, "I can't wait for this to come out in 2016." When hero looter shooters were super popular, that's when they decided to make this. And at no point, as the popularity declined and it became oversaturated, did the leadership go, "Hey, maybe we should try and make a different game out of this." They just stuck to their guns, stubbornly pushed ahead, and said, "No, we're just going to make money." They kept their eye on the thing that they thought was most important, making money, and ironically, they made none. In fact, they lost a lot of money. So it's just executives being stupid.
Yeah, and it's a massive shame considering that that's still the same studio that gave us Alien Isolation. Did you ever play that game?
I haven't played Alien Isolation, but again, Voland's video has a lot of information on that, so I'm just regurgitating a lot from what I've watched from that. Hyenas was originally built off Alien Isolation, the engine. Um, Alien Isolation was a really good game. Apparently, I haven't played it,
I
but
love
a
it.
really good game. But apparently, it went through development hell as well. It took 6 or 7 years to make, and that even though Alien Isolation is a good game, apparently it didn't make that much money, and so they didn't want to invest in a sequel. Now, the funny thing is that it took them a long time to get to that point where it was a really good game. Where if they had made a sequel, they probably could have done it really cheaply. They could have used the same engine. They finally got it into a really good state. They could have done a sequel really cheaply, and because so many people loved it, it probably would have been quite profitable because that's the same mentality they have with Total War. And this is why Creative Assembly has a monopoly because nobody wants to start from scratch to make a Total War engine. But what they've got is they've got 20 years of tech from previous games. Like Rome 1 nearly bankrupted. No, it did bankrupt Creative Assembly. But they've got all this tech that they have essentially inherited. So now, whenever they're making a new Total War game, they can do it relatively quick. Like, for example, Pharaoh. They got that whole game turned around in like 18 months, which is insane when you think about how quick that is.
Yeah. That's
So that's
yeah.
something they could have done.
That's absolutely right. The thing with Alien Isolation, it suffered from what a lot of people are now calling it CA syndrome. It launched like shit. Surprise, surprise. It got better, and I must say, like I've played through it. It is anxiety inducing, and I'm a person who likes horror and stuff, so like that for me was really really good. But at the beginning, it was awful. The fucking alien was just running into the wall constantly. It wasn't actually trying to hunt you down. They fixed it after a few patches, but you launch the product, it looks like crap. People are going to think it's crap and not buy, right?
Yeah, and oftentimes CA read the data really, really poorly. Like I
Yeah,
said, I think they could have done it could have done well for them with an Alien Isolation too, if you just basically just use the same engine,
yeah,
because you're just not you could just make it for 1/10 the cost, and so as long as it sells 1/5 the amount that the original one did, then you'll probably turn a good profit. But they're always, I guess, they're always chasing the big bucks, and I think this is a case where extreme greed can actually be not profitable
yeah.
if you don't read the data correctly.
And that's very, very true, which actually points me to something you said, because obviously they had a very quick turnaround for Pharaoh, which was built off Troy. It's surprise, surprise if anyone doesn't see the similarities. Um, is it just because they think it's safe to do that? Because they do experiment every now and then. I mean, they did
Well,
Halo
actually,
Wars 2 and stuff.
they probably do think it's safe, but it's sort of extreme greed as well, where keep the costs as low as possible and try to maximize the profits.
Yeah,
They probably thought that making a sort of a trilogy out of the Bronze Age and just replicating what they've done with Warhammer will yield similar results. But I think from a historical aspect, these games don't really cut it as historical games, and so it's not resonating well with the community. But also, they probably read the data wrong from Troy because Troy had 7.5 million downloads on the first day, and so they probably looked at that and went, "Wow, Troy's a really good game," but it isn't. It was free.
yeah.
I tell you what, Criticism, you give Pharaoh away for free, and you'll get 7.5 million downloads. But charging more than what you've charged for Total Warhammer 3 for Pharaoh, that's a hard one to swallow. I'm not swallowing it. This is a
It's
saga game in everything but name. And I feel bad for CA Sophia because they've clearly done the best job that they possibly could in the
yeah.
time that they've had and the resources they've got. But they're working with dog shit. They can't work with this and make an amazing Total War game because it's going to be compared to Rome 2 and Attila, and these are games that have way more resources behind it, and they've got those are games with problems as well.
Yeah.
And I just don't see how it can possibly compete. Every single Total War game that comes out has to be better or equal than what has come in the past. You can't go backwards, and that's the problem that Pharaoh is doing. It's kind of getting stuck backwards.
Yeah. So it's one of those things, like you said, CA Sophia are doing their best, and I do want to highlight that because we've seen that they've been listening, and it kind of got me angry with the Warhammer situation in a sense. Are you in the public Discord, the one that's available to everyone?
No, I'm not interested in
Okay,
communicating with CA, so no.
so I'm in there, and I check and I chat and go into the little parts, right? You know how often the devs for Pharaoh talk there? It's incredible. It's actually amazing to see Pharaoh devs talking to the community, and that's why the feedback has been so good. That's why they've done these development videos saying, hey, people wanted this, we gave you this, blah blah blah, you know. And that's really, really cool. You don't get that for Warhammer. You never get that for Warhammer. It's sad.
Yeah, it is sad. I wouldn't mind it if give them a shot at making some Warhammer changes. Give them the code. Let's see if they can do some good patches for it. I just really hope that with Pharaoh, it doesn't look like it's going to be a top seller.
Yeah.
I hope that they don't cut CA Sophia.
Yeah, they're a very good team. I know, like, it's likely they could have probably made like the next big Total War if they had the funds, the support that they deserve, clearly deserve, because
Or at the very least, I think they should be kind of in charge of campaign design. Their battle track record's not amazing, but that maybe they're just working with the Warhammer engine. I don't think the Warhammer engine is suitable at all for historical Total War games.
yeah,
The way that just combat works, it doesn't work for a historical setting at all.
yeah,
And the fact that Troy was built off Warhammer was kind of a mistake. I reckon Troy should have used the campaign aspect of Warhammer, but they really should have used the battle side of things from Total War Attila. The last, or maybe even Three Kingdoms. Those two had really good battles.
yeah. So no, I agree with you, especially with the whole thing about them doing campaign related stuff. Because one thing I always praised Troy heavily for was like new stuff, like in form of mechanics that was coming in through like all the DLCs. Hell, some of that stuff has already started bleeding over into Warhammer 3. It shows that they can make really interesting and fairly unique looking stuff. You had the warband system, which was really, really cool. I really want that mechanic that Memnon has in Troy for like the Dogs of War faction. Would be kind of cool, because it resonates
Yeah, so
with me.
just to give you an idea, I played one campaign of Troy and then never played it again. So when you say Memnon, I go,
Okay, fair
So I
point.
don't know what you're talking about.
All right, did you play, just in case, the Mythos DLC?
I played it for about 20 minutes before I shelved it. I was like, no,
All
and
right.
just turned it off.
So there's a really cool mechanic here, and I'm going to explain it to you because it's got an element of choice, and I think that it could be really cool for Warhammer. When you're going after the mythic creatures like the Griffin, the Cerberus, and the Hydra, you do like a little bit of a quest chain, and then when you pick the one that you want, automatically your faction then gets a bunch of new buildings into there, like stuff that is units dedicated to that mythical creature and so on. It's literally putting something in, which I think is fairly unique. And if you had a character that had a choice, that would work really well, right?
Yeah, so that stuff's really, really great for campaign. But when I was playing Mythos, the first thing I did is I went and fought a couple of battles, and I think I had like a centaur unit. And I charged into the rear of another unit, and it was just they didn't connect with the back of the unit. They actually ran right through it,
Oh,
and I was like, "What? The collision is still not fixed." And then I just turned the game off.
fair play, fair play. You're a big battle guy. I'm more of a campaign mechanic
Oh no, I
type.
love campaigns. The campaign side of Troy is amazing. If
Yeah.
I could just turn battles off on Troy, I totally would. But the battles ruin it.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of feels a little bit better. I don't know. I haven't really played too much Pharaoh. There have been patches in between, and they have kind of like made the chariots a little bit better. And I think that was one thing that I did complain about in a few of my, actually one of my only Pharaoh videos, where I said like that they felt like wet noodles, and now they feel a bit better. So it again points to the fact that they're listening, and
Yeah. I think with the battle systems in Pharaoh, it's that there are not very many true unit types. Like there's lots of different units, but there's not true unit types. You've got melee infantry, missile units, and chariots. That's it. That's three unit types in the
yeah,
game in terms of how they function. And one thing that you could do to make limited unit types work well is to make morale system robust. And from what I've seen, my God, the morale system is not robust at all. Units rout when they're dead, not when they've been flanked or because the general's been killed. They need to make those sort of things a lot more impactful. Like I remember I watched one thing of theirs on Twitch where they killed the enemy general. This is an ambush battle. They killed the enemy general, and the army just didn't really care. And they even mentioned, "Oh yeah, we killed the general, but it doesn't really have that much impact." And I was like, "Then why focus on it?" Sort of thing.
yeah,
When you look at like Total War Attila as an example, if you kill the enemy general, you've won, even if you're badly outnumbered, because you can cause a rout. Enemy units can't rally if their general's been killed, so they always shatter.
Yeah.
And you've got all these tools at your disposal to overcome great odds.
Mm.
So if you don't have those in Total War Pharaoh, in terms of morale victories, then it comes down to just always slaughtering the enemy, which is not, from a historical point of view,
Mm.
what happened. Very rarely was either side ever annihilated in a battle. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that they could do. They've obviously tried to put in a few gimmicks here and there, like sandstorms and weather, but it comes across as gimmicks. It's not robust.
Yeah. I
You
will
know, it'd be
be.
interesting once or twice, but then that's it. Sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, but I will be honest. I do kind of like the weather system. It is kind of different, especially like it just a lot of the maps are just sand, sand, and sand, right? So seeing something come in and affect you in a different way is just kind of nice. It could just be because I'm just tired of like seeing sand.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe from an aesthetic point of view, it's probably a good idea. I just don't think it's particularly impactful because it's going to apply to both sides relatively equally
Mm.
because all of the armies that are opposing each other are going to be comprised of pretty similar units.
Yeah,
You know, if you've got a rainstorm coming in and it wrecks all missile units, well, that only really hurts the side that has more missile units than the other,
yeah,
and it's not particularly high impact. I think it would have been better if they made that maneuverability made a big difference. Like if a chariot charged into the rear of even an elite unit, it just caused a rout sort of thing.
yeah.
That would have been really impactful. But it looks like they charge in, they do some damage, and then they got a cycle charge.
Yeah, it's an odd thing. I feel like something like the weather stuff would have been, like you said, better if there was more variety in terms of units and so on. Like a medieval free where you'd get a lot more variety. The problem with Bronze Age stuff is like everyone is going to be very similar in terms of tech because it's the fucking Bronze Age, right? Like nothing
Yeah,
really.
exactly, and that's why you need to put in other mechanics.
Yeah.
The unit on unit combat is going to be pretty boring
Mm.
when you're playing your fourth campaign. You're going to be like, "Wow, I've done this before." Whereas Total War Warhammer has completely changed the game. You
Mm.
play as the Empire, that's one way of playing. You play as Lizardmen, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Everything is different. And then there's 23 races. There's a lot of similarities between some of them,
Yeah.
but there's 24 races now in Total War Warhammer 3.
Jesus, that much.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
And they're more distinct than ever. And the thing is, you don't have to put that much variety in as long as you've got robust mechanics. From what I've seen, it's just not quite there.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially when considering other historical Total War games have
mm,
done it so much better. You take Shogun 2 as a perfect example.
mm,
Every faction is practically identical.
yeah.
It's all Japanese warriors, right?
Hmm.
So how do they make it so that the battles actually feel satisfying? They make it that the tactics that you do actually matter. Sniping the enemy general, you win the battle.
Mm,
Flank the enemy army, you win the battle. Ambush them, you win the battle.
mm,
So you've got ways of, oh, you hold up in your fort. The fort battles, although the forts are really small to begin with, they actually become very satisfying to overcome great odds.
mm,
And so if you've got these sort of mechanics, and there's no like special magic abilities and immortal characters in that game, but
mm.
the battles feel really satisfying because the combat, you can achieve great things if you're competent, and I think that's really important.
It's well, what you're saying is you want a historical game to feel like a historical game, right? Like you want those battles to be like what you would expect when you're reading through history books and stuff like that, and it's obviously not here as of
Yeah, well,
late.
I think that's the whole point of when you're playing a historical game, you want to feel like you're actually there. It's a historical simulation.
Yeah,
If it feels like you're if in ancient Egypt, but you've got characters that are larger than life, superpowers, and that if they die, well, they don't really die. They're immortal. It just doesn't feel right for me.
yeah, I
That was
didn't.
one of the things with Troy. I mean, I kind of got over it with like mythos and
Mm,
them being sort of legendary characters, but
yeah,
the last true historical Total War game was Thrones of Britannia, really, where characters like you would start off with Alfred the Great,
yeah,
and he would die.
yeah, and that's what you
Time would pass,
expect.
or he would die in battle, and all of these characters, the historical characters, they would eventually die.
Yeah, it's honestly a massive shame. That threw me off too when Pharaoh was announced and stuff. It's like, wait, they can't
Also, no
age.
family trees.
Yeah, well, obviously they're immortal, right? So they're clearly all virgins. Um, it's just odd.
They're all sterile. They can't have kids.
Yeah,
No, what it is that this whole thing, it's like with Total War Warhammer. The entire campaign happens over the space of weeks, not decades. Whereas you take like Medieval 2, and 100 turns is 200 years.
yeah.
So you're going through loads of generations. That's just not happening. And we just haven't had a Total War game where generations happen in the span of one campaign
Mm,
since Thrones of Britannia or Rome 2, where it admittedly probably goes a bit too quick,
yeah.
and Total War Attila. And Three Kingdoms did it a bit, but they had larger than life characters. Unless you played Records mode, which felt watered down.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't get the most important setting for Three Kingdoms, the actual Three Kingdoms, but God, I hate that so much. The fact that we didn't actually get the actual title of the fucking setting as a fucking playable game mode.
Well,
Uh,
the funny thing with that is that I think they were going to give it to you as a what they're doing now with Pharaoh, because Pharaoh was originally planned as a DLC for Troy,
yeah.
right? So they probably had plans to put in the start date for the Three Kingdoms period, and then they figured, oh, you know what, we're probably not going to make that much money with DLC. Let's make it a full game. And then, of course, it got so much backlash that they either put it on the back burner or they cancelled it outright.
I'm gonna give you a theory of mine, and I've been saying it a lot lately. I have a feeling that Three Kingdoms 2 was never going to happen. Like, absolutely ever. That video was there just to make people think that it was going to happen. But that was never going to happen. Honestly.
Could be right. I mean, we can speculate on it. Three Kingdoms, the base game, sold a lot of copies. It was arguably the best-selling Total War game
Yeah.
up until that point. And maybe even still. I mean, you could even argue that Troy is the best-selling Total War game because I don't think any Total War games ever sold 7 million copies. We just don't know what their plans actually were. It was really mismanaged right after launch with the DLC. Like, who thought that the Eight Princes DLC was a good idea?
Oh my
That was a
God.
terrible idea. That was where I stopped playing Three Kingdoms completely. I just turned it off.
I get angry thinking about it. It's like, it's the end of the fucking story, man. Like, why? And then we had 2 DLCs for the Yellow Turbans, right? Which, fair enough. We've had that already with Warhammer where we had 2 DLCs for the Beastmen. But the difference is that it was different, right? Like, the 2 Yellow Turban DLCs for Three Kingdoms feel almost the same, Like, because it's the same troops, right? It's the same ideology. It's the same rebellion.
Yeah, and if you're going to argue in the case of the Beastmen, those DLCs were 5 years apart,
Yeah.
and one is adding the race to the game, and the other one is completely overhauling it and adding more to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they add on to each other. They're not just 2 separate islands
Yeah.
in an archipelago sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's another thing as well. Creative Assembly has a habit of not learning lessons, or like when they do things right,
Mm-hmm.
they have a habit of not learning from them. Like they just forget how, or they just don't understand how they did things right.
Yeah.
They had a game, Total War Warhammer 2, that actually increased its player count over time because the game was carefully looked after. It launched kind of meh,
Yeah.
typical Creative Assembly launch, and they took care of it and developed it. They made these really big patches like the Potion of Speed, the one that added naval battles. They're not naval battles, but battles at sea battles. That's it. And they made some serious improvements to the game over time, and so people came to the game well after launch. But then you've got situations like Warhammer 3 and Three Kingdoms
Yeah.
where they launch the game and then they make no serious changes to it. They just add weird content at weird prices,
Yeah.
and the player count declines. And they think that that's just the normal, or they blame something else that's entirely not the case. If you take care of your game, you can increase the player count. If you
Yeah.
don't take care of the game, you'll decrease the player count. It's pretty simple, but they don't seem to learn this lesson.
Yeah. I'll actually outright say, and this is a firm belief of mine, they finally started getting the Three Kingdoms DLC done right at the end, and unfortunately it was too late because the Fates Divided DLC was absolutely great. The mechanics introduced made Cao Cao's faction incredibly fun. Nanman was really, really cool too, but it's like when you put it to that late when everything else has been crap, nobody's gonna want to buy it. Like, there's only so
Well, yeah,
much that
they
you can
lost all
do.
their momentum from the beginning, and you gotta slowly earn all that back. It takes time to reclaim lost players and lost viewers and that kind of stuff. So the best case scenario is just don't lose them in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, that's too expensive. They're not going to learn that lesson. Um, so they go for quick cash grabs. It's easier, just launch a whole new game.
But this is actually something which you make a valid point. It's the lost momentum. Now, my question is to you: when you've lost the momentum one time, rebuilt it, and then lose it again, obviously talking about Warhammer 3, how do you think the player base feels about that? Because I feel angry, you know?
I kind of feel as though Warhammer 3 is a lost cause now. I feel like Creative Assembly, I don't think they're going to put in the effort that they need to bring it back. But this could just be me being cynical. I
Mm,
hope that they do. Don't get me wrong. I always want the best for Total War Warhammer,
yeah.
but I feel like the community has been burned too many times now,
Mm,
and I feel like we might get 1 or 2 more years of Warhammer 3 DLC before they go, it's the future of Warhammer 3 or whatever. We'll just have to
yeah.
wait and see, but I don't think we're going to hit the play numbers that Warhammer 2 hit,
Yeah.
late in its cycle. And they have to release a Potion of Speed style update. They have to do something that overhauls. They've got to rework the sieges or do something to to really catch people's attention. They can't just be like, here's another premium DLC with 3 more lords. That's not going to cut it. That's
Mm.
going to cut the player base, not increase it. Unless they want to do some more free LC lords, I'm always down for that.
Yeah, they really need to bring back FLC. I mean, hey, look, yeah, premium content. It's all in the same development cycle. Like I've said, people weren't really pissed off about the price. People were pissed off about the lack of content to justify the price, you know?
Well, I think it's a straw that breaks the camel's back situation. I
Yeah,
think people can swallow the price if the game's in a good state.
yeah.
People can swallow the price if it was 5 legendary lords. So if it's a case of the game's not in a good state, not as much content, the
Mm,
price increased by 150%, tone deaf statements from Creative Assembly,
mm,
just overall not doing a good job across the board, it has a cascading effect. If they could just fix one area of these problems, they might be able to start turning it around. Ideally, it'd be good if they do all of these areas,
yeah.
but that would be asking a lot from Creative Assembly.
Yeah. See, I wanna. I'm one of these people, and you know me very well. At the beginning of like my YouTube career and stuff, I'd give them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm getting to the point where I'm jaded, right? And it's very
Yeah,
noticeable.
that's was me as well. You should have heard me back in the Rome 2 era. I was sitting there making excuses for Creative Assembly. Oh no, they're going to do a great job of Rome 2. It's going to be fantastic. And now I don't even like Rome 2. But that happens with a lot of people. The more that they deal with Creative Assembly, the more jaded they get. Not everyone,
Yeah.
but that is my experience with it, where you give them a chance and then they blow it, and then you just don't want to give them another chance after that. I'm still receptive to them doing a good job, and I want
Yeah.
to see them do well, and I want to praise them, but it's such a long track record of disappointments.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes from me, like I've the way I see it, and I said this on my Shadows of Change review, is I've dealt with one end times, and now it feels like I'm going to another one. It's like I don't want this. Nobody wants this, right? Yet management obviously want more cash flow coming in again, possibly due to the fact that they likely knew that Hyenas was going to be a fucking failure, and this fucks everyone. But like I am happy to put in cash to buy DLCs like that. Like obviously, full disclosure, I get the DLCs for free, but I do sometimes buy the DLCs for some friends and stuff. I put a lot of money into Warhammer, like tabletop. I When it's my passion, I'll put time in, and when it comes to content, it's my time. But I just don't want to put that much time into it, into videos and stuff now, because
Oh yeah, I'm exactly the same with Warhammer 2.
yeah,
I used to do a live stream,
yeah,
stop the live stream, and then I would play my own campaign in my own spare time,
mm,
and then I would make videos. It would just be 24 hours a day, basically, apart from sleeping,
yeah,
just Warhammer 2 non-stop. I didn't play, I barely played any other games throughout 2018 to 2021.
mm,
But then Warhammer 3 comes along. oh man, I just can't get into any of these campaigns anymore. I'll do the live stream, but after a live stream, I'm just like, oof, I need to get a Warhammer 3 detox going.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It's weird. It wasn't what I was expecting at all. When I remember a long time ago, I said when Warhammer 3 came out, I was going to leave it on the game for a full year without turning it off once. Wouldn't play a single other game but Warhammer 3. Obviously didn't do that. I couldn't. The game was not as interesting.
yeah.
They've not tended to this garden. It's wilted. It's not dead, but it has wilted.
Yeah, no, exactly. I would sit down and play quite often myself because, this is a setting that means a lot to me, right? A lot to me. So now I'm barely putting in like maybe about 10 hours a week into the game, and even sometimes it's sometimes less because, oh, another bug. It just gets me not wanting to play. If I have a game-breaking bug or some random crashes, and it kills
Well,
the
the thing
momentum.
is as well, there's always been bugs in Total War games, especially in Warhammer 2. But I feel like whenever you encounter a bug in Warhammer 3, it just hits a bit harder because the game is not drawing you in it in the same way that Warhammer 2 did.
Mm,
Because in Warhammer 2, the campaigns would just evolve really naturally.
mm,
It didn't feel like challenge was shoehorned in. These power blocks would form that would be equal or stronger than what you could build, and it felt like a natural endgame crisis. But now it's like you set the time that you want the endgame crisis in, and bleh, this huge blob of enemies just spawn, and it can be exhausting dealing with these absolute spam of armies, which there is no reward in the game for defeating them. So it's just your own personal challenge. They've really missed the mark on a lot of these things because the way that endgame crisis is currently implemented, that would not have taken someone long to implement that. That's just a couple of lines of code just basically spawn these armies in this location.
yeah.
It's I'm actually surprised they haven't done an in-game crisis like this for all the other races
Mm,
because it would be pretty quick to implement. But I think they are trying to start to get things a little bit more interesting. Like the Chaos Dwarf one is a bit more interesting,
yeah.
slightly. Still
Uh,
not great.
I think I played one campaign with it on, and then I've never turned it on ever again.
Yeah, I never turn it on in my personal campaigns. I always turn it off. Just for live streaming, sometimes I turn them on
No,
just to make it live stream a bit more interesting. But in my own personal campaigns, I always turn them off because they're not interesting.
even for streams, I don't turn them on. And when people ask, it's like I just don't like it. It doesn't have the feeling like the Chaos Warrior one did in Warhammer One, right? Like that was more, it's a legion of forces. This is just like,
And that wasn't a great endgame crisis either,
yeah,
but it's better than what we've currently got.
yeah.
It's kind of like the siege rework as well. Who would have thought that we would wish to get sieges from Warhammer 2 back? Because the ones in 3 are so bad. They actively made it worse.
It's such an odd thing. I mean, I feel like if they would have just improved pathfinding a little bit, not had the fucking gimmick in there, like building towers and stuff, it's like, oh, yeah, we'd be perfect, Like it wouldn't be
Well, this is a
perfect,
case
but
of a designer comes through, probably senior management or something, I don't know, that have their own ideas and what they want to put in, and they don't check to see what the players actually want. They don't listen to the feedback,
mm,
because any of us could have told them this wasn't going to work. And when they revealed the siege rework, I was like, this looks like it's going to have problems, like bigger maps, but the AI is just as bad.
mm,
And we've seen just how bad it actually gets. It does seem to me though, and I've said this before, that somebody at Creative Assembly loves capture points. They're obsessed with it. Do you remember in Rome 2 when the game first came out?
mm.
There were capture points in field battles. And so they thought the solution was, let's just put lots of capture points in the cities. More
So
capture
weird.
points. There'll be a Total War game that'll come out one day and it'll have just 20 capture points across the map. It'll
Oh,
just be Total War capture the flag.
oh God, don't
And
get,
someone at CA will just be super satisfied with it.
see, you
But I
just
think
said
people
that.
want to see fewer capture points. One in a city.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
Just one. That's it.
I mean, it was always the good format. Like, for example, I've been playing a lot of Med 2 recently, just playing like the modded campaigns and stuff. And yeah, just the one main capture point sorted. And it's better than having to think about everything else. But then again, the sieges are going to be crap anyway. The pathfinding is
Well, it's
horrible.
not even that. A lot of the time you can actually ignore it. That's even a worse side of things where like with minor settlement sieges, as an example,
Mm,
I only hold on to 1 point. You only need 1 point, so I don't bother holding on to the other ones.
mm.
It's not required at all. Major settlement battles, just the main point. Why do I need to hold on to the other ones? You just spread your forces too thin. You're most likely outnumbered if the AI's attacking a settlement manually, because otherwise you'd be able to auto resolve it. So you'd usually outnumbered. Why would you spread yourself too thin when you're outnumbered? It doesn't make any sense. They're not putting tactical thought behind this stuff. They're just going, capture points, that'll fix it, yeah. And there's no real thought behind it.
It's a massive shame because like a lot of those maps do look kind of cool, but
The
like
maps are great. I love bigger maps for sure, but the AI can't handle them, and the mechanics inside the maps are terrible.
yeah,
Like the fact that walls are still not really worth defending is so stupid.
yes, that's a big issue. It's just it it's the engine. It can't handle this, can it? It just can't handle.
I wouldn't say it's the engine. The reason why walls don't matter is because your units don't fight very well if you've got missile units because they can't fire correctly onto the enemy. You've got a way better chance of hitting them in choke point situations and with barricades and with towers. And so once the enemy has reached the walls and they've climbed up on it, the advantage of the walls is completely gone. So that's the towers. They're the ones that do all the damage.
Yeah.
Because fighting up on the walls, in most cases, doesn't give you any advantage whatsoever. Whereas in Medieval 2, you said as an example, if you kept fighting on the walls, your towers were actually able to keep shooting sideways into them. So you would want to hold onto the walls as long as possible until they were finally captured. You really fought tooth and nail for the walls, but now give them up straight away. You put a unit up on the wall just to get the towers shooting, and then run them off the walls as soon as the enemy get close to the wall, because that's the only value. And if the towers are like tier 1, don't even bother in the first place.
Yeah, it's
So just lack of thought behind these sort of mechanics.
I don't know. It's because they must test this, right? There must be like one guy chained
Yeah,
up in a fucking
there is a
basement.
player experience team, but I think Creative Assembly has a very sycophantic yes man culture, where if you're working there and you're like, hey, I don't think this mechanic is working, they like go, "Meh, okay, fair enough. But if you're like, yes, boss, awesome, boss, thanks, boss, you want a cup of coffee, boss? You're gonna get promoted. So if you punish criticism and reward bootlicking, then you're going to encourage bootlicking, and that's going to create a culture where change doesn't really happen.
Yeah, that actually does kind of make sense. It
'Cause
doesn't
at the end of the
happen.
day, the people working at Creative Assembly, many of them probably don't really care about Total War. They want to get a promotion. And so Creative Assembly needs to create a culture where doing your job well gets you a promotion, not sucking foot or other things. But if they create a sycophant culture, then those are the people that you're going to see succeed. Bootlickers.
Yeah. See, I'm from just like watching the situation unfold and so on. I honestly think that the devs are trying their best, and it's just someone in charge is saying, "That's great, but what if you cut that, that, and that? Could we still sell it for this?"
Yeah, probably. I
Because
think it's a complex machine. There's probably a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of areas that could use a lot of improvement. But there's no doubt that there are a lot of really talented and passionate devs working on it. But the problem is when their work is equal value to the people who aren't passionate, the people who aren't fans, the people who are just there because it's a ladder to climb in the corporate ladder.
yeah,
Their work gets diluted, and it's harder for them to get the message across. If they had a situation where everybody there was working hard, was passionate, and that promotions were based on merit, not how much the boss likes you, then you would get a lot more competition in between the devs, which would hopefully create way better work
yeah,
because it
that's
would
true.
encourage it.
Yeah,
But if you encourage just be nice to the boss and that'll give you a promotion, then workflow is not as important.
that's very true. I also think it might have something to do with their starting wage. Because have you been on the Glassdoor website and so on? You can find out how much these people get paid.
And that's why they want a promotion. They don't want to sit there at minimum wage. They can work earn the same amount as McDonald's.
Yeah,
So if they want to get a promotion, the fastest way to promotion is suck your boss's ass. So they'll do it.
yeah,
Nobody wants to live off a can of beans a day. People need to make money.
yeah,
So I've been in that situation before where you do jobs that you find distasteful, but you've got to do it because or else you will be homeless.
yeah.
You don't have a choice. Um, unfortunate reality of things. Unfortunately, I don't think Creative Assembly is aware of any of the like the heads at Creative Assembly aware of any of this stuff going on. They just think everything is working fine. Well, not now, right now. Just
Yeah,
saying.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that they have to be listening now because they must be under fire. Like I imagine Sega's going,
Well, I
hey,
really hope that they are listening, and
yeah.
I hope that they're not just going, well, we just got unlucky. If we just fire half of our staff and then just do the same thing again, well, we'll make more money. I hope that's not what they're doing. I hope they're really taking a good look at themselves and go, we need to do a lot better next time around or going forward in future. We need to actually listen to the criticism, especially the loudest criticism. You should at least, you don't have to do anything about it, but you should always listen to the people who are yelling at you the loudest because they might have a point. And
Yeah.
even if it might be unpleasant, you should listen to them.
I think it's obviously the best thing you can do. I mean, even community feedback is valuable. You know, that's your players. That's basically your gold, right? Without these people, you wouldn't really be having such success in these titles. And it does feel like they're getting ignored for, I don't know, a quick buck. It's just odd.
Well, if you get used to this is part of the problem with the company that this gets bloated like Creative Assembly, is that each year you've got to get more bang for your buck. You've got to put in less money, make more money, and so you get to a point where you're just cutting features and getting super lazy, and it reaches a tipping point, which we've seen now, where they get so lazy and so not self-aware that they make an absolute flop and make a mess of it all, and so then they need to reel back. If they had just not been this greedy in the first place, they wouldn't have lost $100 million because a shooter game could have worked.
Yeah.
It could have worked if you made it, if you had been decisive about what it was going to be to begin with, and you made a theme to it that wasn't completely soulless and was targeting no one.
I
Like,
I
who thought that that theme was a good idea?
I
Hey, imagine being in the boardroom and going, hey, let's try cringe. Oh, yeah, that'll work well. Let's try cringe. Let's go hard on cringe. I don't think I've ever seen anything as cringe as Hyenas. Do you know what the funniest thing about one of the funniest things about Hyenas? I could go on for days about this. Is that the fucking logo for Hyenas is a dead hyena.
yeah, it is odd. I
It's so not self-aware of their own fate.
I went out for a few days ago with some buddies to have a few drinks. I put on the Hyenas trailer to show it to a few friends. Like, so tell me, what do you think is this of this? And they were just like, "Who is this for?" It's like, I don't know, bro. You tell me. You know, like it is odd that that was what they came up with, and it does worry me because obviously you've heard those rumors, right, about other games that are in production by CA, all the various studios that may or may not be killed now. I've heard stuff about like whispers about a role-playing game and stuff like that. It's like, who the fuck wants that? They want a total war. That's what people expect from
Well,
Creative Assembly.
that's their core competencies for sure. But when you reach that size, you can branch out into other things. But I think what Creative Assembly needs to learn is that if it wants to branch out, you have to learn that discipline. If you're going to make a role playing game, an RPG, then you're going to be competing with Bethesda and Larian Studio and CG Project Red, and so you better be bloody familiar about what they're doing,
Yeah.
and maybe don't produce pure cringe,
Yeah.
you know, which these other ones are making really gritty, very like just really good games.
Yeah.
And if you're just going to half-ass it, you're not going to compete. If you're the new guy on the block, you've got to blow everyone else out of the water.
Yeah.
And I don't think Creative Assembly realized that, because the thing is with Total War is that they never need to blow anyone out of the water.
Yeah.
They just need to just release the same engine again, and people will go, "Shut up and take my money." You know, it's another Total War game. You know,
Yeah.
that's because it's their core competency.
Yeah, but like I see it as this: like if like I've been hearing all these rumors, and obviously we've had a few dead games that never saw proper release. Obviously, not just Hyenas.
I think that's a common thing with big development studios, is that a lot of games do die. So it's I wouldn't say that's necessarily a CA problem. I'm sure that a lot of big companies, like let's just say Paradox for example, there's probably a huge backroom and the back full of dead games. You just don't hear about it.
Yeah, but the problem is that Total War makes them public. CA makes them public, and that we've like that's when you start to think what's going on. Because if you think about it, before Hyenas was Elysium, before that was what, Total War Arena. Did that get a public release, or was it still on beta form?
That never got a public release. That was a weird one, Total Arena. I feel like that's a game that should have succeeded.
Well, they probably didn't get as much love. What I don't understand is when they go into things that don't make sense. Like Elysium, right? I gave it a good try and I was like, okay, this is fun, but how is this different from, every other card game that already exists? Why would I want to play this when I can play Gwent, when I can play Hearthstone, or anything else, right? And it's
Yeah,
there.
it's like what I said. If you can't be first, be best. And Creative Assembly, they're not first in these areas. They were first with Total War, so they've got that.
Yeah,
And in many ways, they're best because nobody's competing. But if they're going to break into an existing genre, they
yeah.
have to be best if they want to break into it. Like just look what Larian Studio did with
Oh,
BG3.
I love
They're
that
going to be
game.
remembered for ages now because of what they've done. They put in the time and the effort to really stand out, and they've embarrassed all the other sort of companies trying.
Yeah,
They're now the golden standard for it. But the thing is, if they release another game, so let's say they do BG4, and it is just like watered down version of that, it's not going to fly.
yeah,
You look at Payday, a recent example.
yeah,
I played a fair bit of Payday 2. Payday 2 is a great game, has loads of content in it. They kept it going for a really long time. They made Payday 3. It's Payday 2 except less. Why do you expect people to buy that? People expect a sequel to be better.
yeah,
But this is what happens with these studios that have been existing for a long time. They go, let's just do that except less.
yeah.
Let's just try to scam people for money. I don't know why.
It honestly worries me because, like, you use the example of like this hypothetical role play game because I still feel like it was something that was viable, but still, they could never be as good as, like, say for example Bethesda, because you like, even Bethesda's not great at being Bethesda. Let's be honest there, right? Like, their games are buggy messes, right? And if you bring out an even buggier game than, say for example, Skyrim, you're gonna just be remembered as a joke, right? And that
Yeah,
that
of course. Well, here's the thing. Starfield's getting a lot of criticism, but I actually think that Starfield is a great Bethesda game. I've been playing it pretty much non-stop since it first came out. If you have a look at what they've done with Starfield, is it buggy? Absolutely. I've had NPCs and quest characters merge into walls, but I'm used to that with the Bethesda game.
yeah,
But what they have done is they've upped their game in things like combat. It's way better than in other Bethesda games. And also the quests. These are the best quests that I've ever seen Bethesda pull off. And even though they're still using the same engine, it's just the same thing over and over again. And visually, it doesn't look as good as like Cyberpunk. It doesn't even look as good as Witcher 3. That's like 8 years old now. The areas that Bethesda claim to be good at, they are improving in, especially with the quests.
yeah. I think that's always been a thing. Like, for example, one of my favorite Bethesda games is Oblivion, right? I absolutely adore Oblivion. And, like,
Yeah.
visually it's crap, and it was crap when it came out. However, like the Dark Brotherhood quest line and so on, incredible, absolutely fucking incredible. That's what they were good at, for good storytelling. Skyrim was a bit less, but Skyrim was more like I said, to be honest, there was a lot of problems with Skyrim story, but like they made it very visual, and it lost everything else. Good story is a big key for them. Total War,
Well,
it's
if you like good story, I feel like Starfield has an amazing story. I was actually very impressed with it. I recently finished the first run of Starfield. Those of you who have played Starfield will know what I mean by first run. It had a few twists and turns along the way that I was really impressed with. Because
okay.
I actually never finished the story for Skyrim, not once. I've got 1,000 hours in it.
You didn't miss much, believe me.
That's what I've heard. So I went and did the side quests, and that's what I really enjoyed. But I was doing the side quests with Starfield, and I realized I was sort of missing out on a lot. So I went and started doing the main quest, and realized more of the game got opened up, and it just kept going. And now, pretty much all I'm doing is just main quest over and over again.
That's great, honestly. I haven't picked it up yet, mostly because I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. Funny enough, I've done like
Yeah,
four
that's this
playthroughs.
opposite with me. I want to pick up Baldur's Gate 3, but I haven't because I'm playing Starfield. So that'll be the next game that I'll play after I'm done with Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3.
I've been really enjoying it. Larian surprised me. I'll be honest with you, because I was a bit worried because it was like, oh, it's Baldur's Gate 3. You have to one up from 1 and 2. I was a bit concerned, but holy shit, man! Like it's got a lot of players still playing it. Like I follow one of the head lead devs, and he posts player numbers on his Twitter every now and then. It's like, God damn, you guys are doing amazingly well. Good on you. Like you
And
deserve
that
that.
makes me very jealous as well because I look at Total War and I think, oh wow, we still got 10% of our players. We're hanging on there,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
from launch. That's what happens with Total War game, and this will probably happen with Pharaoh as well. It'll lose 70 to 90% of its players shortly after launch because people come and play and they go, oh yeah, I've seen this before. Yeah, play the campaign, switch off. It's nothing new,
it does worry
spectacular.
me. That's the problem. You would expect jumps because like with Warhammer 2 we had bumps with DLCs, right? And they'd go down again, but it was still very noticeable bumps.
It was a trend. It was trending upwards
Yes.
constantly, and that was a good. That's why I was so impressed with what they were doing with Warhammer 2, and it's one of the few Total War games that did that. Maybe Shogun 2 did it. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't monitoring it as much back then,
Yeah.
but Rome 2 definitely had decay. Every single Total War game had decay. Warhammer 2 stands out as being one of the first Total War games that didn't decay over time and actually had a trending upwards, which has now reversed course and is now trending downwards,
Yeah.
which is a shame.
I saw the numbers when Shadows of Change released, and obviously, I was angry too. But I looked at it and I was like, God damn, that's depressing. When it's just a little bit of a bump on there, and then it just goes down again. It's like, for fuck's
No,
sake.
it's even worse than that because if you have a look at when other DLC has released, right, they went from like 20,000 players to 70,000 players, but Shadows of Change went from 20,000 players to 33,000. So
Mhm.
that means that when the other DLCs came out, they increased the player count by like 40, 50,000,
Yeah.
but this one increased it by 10,000.
Yeah.
So it's way worse than what it actually might appear like on paper.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is that I've heard from sources that Shadows of Change made more profit than other Lord packs.
Oh yeah,
So
but you're charging people so much fucking cash,
yeah,
man.
even though half the number of people bought it, I think what ended up happening is that most people bought it on third-party websites,
Yeah.
and Creative Assembly gets a better cut from that than Steam.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm not sure. I think that they tried to get people to buy it off third-party websites or their own website for better deals than Steam. They basically want to get Steam out of the equation because Steam takes such a big cut. So even though they sold way fewer copies of Shadows of Change, they made more money. And in the short term, that makes them happy.
Mm.
But I think that they need to start thinking a bit more long term
Yeah.
because their long term prognosis right now is bleak.
Yeah.
They really need to look into the future and stop looking at their feet. They need to look ahead at the road because
Yeah.
they're about to walk off a cliff.
It's one of those things. Was obviously like we have a roadmap, right? And there's like two DLCs there, Thrones of Decay and a possible Slanesh one. And I'm getting like increasingly worried that that's going to be it. Like literally it.
I don't think we're at that point yet. Things are trending downwards, but one thing to keep in mind is that Total War Warhammer 3, for all of its failings, is making Creative Assembly the most amount of money. Until they have another product that is making similar money for the amount of effort that they put in, they will not consider canning Warhammer 3. So if the player base doesn't realize this, but you've actually got Creative Assembly's balls in a vice. All you have to do is not buy other Total War games, and Creative Assembly has no choice but to keep Warhammer 3 going. That being said, if Medieval 3 comes around, bye-bye Warhammer 3. Bye-bye. It's gone.
Actually, I would say if Medfree, say, for example, Medfree gets announced tomorrow, I would tell you guys as viewers, watch creators like a hawk and make sure that you're looking at all the videos and listen to them, right? When they're showing off bugs and
Well,
stuff like that. Because there's a lot.
yes, but at the same time, we're very, very limited in what we can show you a lot of the time, and in terms of our criticism because of those embargoes.
Yeah.
Those embargoes are absolutely crippling on how we can communicate information. We're constantly dodging the damn review embargo. You know, what I'm saying is not a review. We've got to pad every statement that we make so we don't get Creative Assembly breathing down our neck.
Yeah.
It's I would say that creators are trying their best to give you the information, but read between the lines. That's the most important thing.
Watch their
If people are
faces.
if don't ask for their opinions, look at their opinions. Look at the looks in their face. The face is telling you the truth, even if the words aren't, because these embargoes are absolutely crippling. And I've been working pretty hard to get them to reel back on these embargoes, but I've had no success with that so far.
The one thing I absolutely despise, and I've made it very publicly known, the day before review stuff. I don't like
Yeah, nobody does, except for Creative Assembly. The thing is, it benefits Creative Assembly because it's how it works. If there's a serious problem with the game, they go, "Oh, you just review it badly, right?" But if you're sitting there playing it for 2 weeks prior and you're just avoiding the really bad things, this is where I failed with Warhammer 3 because I didn't play into the realms of chaos. That was my biggest gripe
yeah,
with Warhammer 3. I didn't play into it. I just played it as if it was a sandbox game because that was how I enjoyed it.
yeah,
And people just assumed it was a great game. But then 2 days before launch, I rip into it. But people have already watched me for several weeks having fun
yeah.
by not playing this mechanic. And so they inadvertently thought I had endorsed the realms of chaos, which I
Yeah.
didn't. Is because of the review embargo.
See,
But I learnt that then.
I made my mistake because I was positively thinking about Warhammer 3, the base game, because I was like, and I said it, I gave it a decent review, like a 6 or 7 or something, which for me is decent. And I was like, well, this might not be for you, but Immortal Empires will come out soon, and you can fuck this off.
I
But
couldn't believe took them 6 months to get
six
Immortal Empires
fucking
out. I
months,
couldn't
man.
believe it.
Six
Yeah.
fucking months. They allowed that game to die just by doing that. They damned it. I honest to God think they should have further delayed Warhammer 3 again. They couldn't because obviously shareholder stuff and obviously Sega getting involved and stuff. But god damn, they should have delayed it again. Someone should have gone out and protest and said, "Hey, we need
Oh,
to do this."
absolutely. Yeah.
Because
Well, what I was doing was begging them for patches before launch, just band-aids, just put in some stat changes quick. This is gonna burn up real bad.
yeah,
And the funny thing is, right before Warhammer 3 early access, I uninstalled Warhammer 2, thinking that's it, never gonna play this again.
same.
But the player count tanked so hard. I was like, well, I'm going back to Warhammer 2.
See,
So
I
that
instead
sucked.
I didn't even go back to Warhammer 2. I just got angry because I was like, for fuck's sake, man! Like you come here with showing us the third title. This is supposed to be the big one, right? Fucking bugs, that Zinch bug, dude. I shit you not, in one stream, I think I still have the VOD. I almost punched through my monitor because I had that fucking bug with the Realm of Zinch thing, where it just didn't show up. I went through all that headache to get to the end, and then the fucking entrance for the survival battle didn't show up. And I got up and I went to
I
punch
never
my
had
monitor.
that bug because I never went into the realm of Zinch more than once, really. Because I was like, oh no, this is not game. I'm not playing this. I don't. Domination for me. Screw this campaign,
See,
sort of thing.
I wanted
Yeah,
to
I
like
did not
paint.
go into the realm of Zinch very many times. It was. I actually had many rants to them about how can you possibly think that the realm of Zinch was okay to implement into the game? How?
Yeah,
It's like, guess the lucky door, and the AI just instantly guesses straight
yeah.
away. Yeah.
And
Oh my
thing
god, it was
is,
such a bad game design.
it would have solved so many issues if they would have just had a simple toggle to just like not have the campaign mechanic work. And no, like I know a lot of creators suggested that to CA and they didn't listen. And then this modder comes out literally the day or 2 days after the fucking game launches. Oh, here's your toggle. It's like, thank you God, now I can actually play this game.
Yes, but a lot of people will just not download mods because it feels really unofficial. It feels like you're kind of cheating if you're doing that kind of stuff. Some people. So it should. It's great that modders do this stuff, but it would be better if Creative Assembly did it.
Oh no, I
Now, it's
completely
actually really
agree.
good that you've brought on to the modding side of things because I've heard that Total War Pharaoh had modders had access to it for 3 months, and I've actually seen the evidence of it. I saw
Oh,
Terminator's video, and he showed me evidence, and yep, it's compelling that modders have had access to it for some modders, not all of them. Obviously, if you've made like a UI mod for Warhammer 3, you probably didn't get access to it.
yeah.
These are the modders that were working on Bronze Age stuff specifically, have had access to Pharaoh for 3 months, and the intent behind it is because Pharaoh is not going to be financially supported by Creative Assembly post-launch. So
Okay.
what they want to do in order to sell copies in the future is make sure the modding seed is vibrant because they understand that Medieval 2 sells a lot of copies because it has mods. So they want basically modders to keep this game alive and basically sell it for them. So that's why they're getting access to it early. When the game launches, there should be a bunch of mods already available, giving the game more content that they obviously don't have the finances to do them. That's a very cynical take with it as well, but how often is this stuff actually true? Creative Assembly has never given that kind of early access to modders, and there's got to be a reason for it. They don't do
They
this stuff out of the
actually
kindness
do.
of their heart.
They actually do. So a bunch of people kind of figured out during the Warhammer 3 launch that a bunch of these modders are actually the beta testers.
Right, okay.
Because I remember there was a bunch of
Yeah,
modders
unpaid
going,
beta testers, yeah.
yeah, because they get all the access. They're yes men, like you said, because they will praise it regardless. And there you go. Because I mean, the game gets beta tested. We know this, and yet still releases with issues that people would have caught on if they played that game enough, right?
Right?
Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. So I'm
But yeah,
imagining,
Creative Assembly does have a way of. They definitely prefer their yes men over no men. They really should look into people who are a bit more critical of them
yeah,
and value that a bit more because these are actually the people who actually care about the game rather than their friendship with Creative Assembly. Like, for example, me and others, I don't care about my friendship with Creative Assembly. I don't care about Creative Assembly at all. I care about Total War. If Bethesda tomorrow buys the rights to Total War, I'll never talk to Creative Assembly again. I don't care. I'm not saying that's what should happen, but I'm just saying my loyalty is to Total War, and they should probably look into. I'm not saying me specifically. In fact, don't come to me because you've burnt your bridges with me. But look to people who are loyal to Total War, not to Creative Assembly. That's
yeah.
really important.
Yeah, I mean that criticism is actually good. This is something. There was a big drama on it, and it's kind of diverting into another company, but it happened. It happens every year, right? Do you watch or have you heard of the creator Asmongold?
Yes.
So he loves World of
Wait,
Warcraft.
hang on. Who's he? No, I'm just kidding. Go
So
on.
he loves WoW. I've been watching him since he basically started, right? And there are loads of drama issues that he has with devs at WoW, but a lot of the heads do respect his opinions because at the end of the day, this guy, yeah, he can be a little toxic, let's be honest, but like he loves that game. He absolutely
Well, I
loves that
think
game.
I think people who are passionate could sometimes be seen as toxic. People often call me toxic, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not toxic, am I? I don't think I am. But when you're angry about something, you can come across as toxic, and
Yeah.
I get very angry. So I can see if you're not a regular viewer of Asmongold, maybe you can see him as toxic. But what it really is the case is the guy is passionate and that he's willing to burn bridges with the developers in order to make the game better.
Yeah.
Which I am willing to do that as well. And I'm not saying you have to respect that, but that is the mindset behind it. But yeah, it's clearly a very passionate player of these games, Blizzard games. But also in regard to him, he is like I'm a tiny player by comparison to him. It would make more sense for not Bethesda, Blizzard to pay attention to what he says more so than for Creative Assembly to pay attention to what I say.
But you are one of the bigger. Actually the biggest one in terms of not only views and stuff, in terms of voice and everything. You need to be heard too because you are obviously. How many hours do you have in Warhammer 3? Like right now?
5,000?
There you go. So you've been playing that game fucking constantly. I've got you on Steam.
No, I have not been playing it constantly.
Well, not constantly, but you know what I
yeah,
mean, right?
okay.
So I see, like I've got you on Steam. I see you when you go and play. You play the game and stuff. It's like, oh, okay, there he goes again, and it's that, right? Like you play the game. It's not only just because it's like you've been. How long have you been playing Total War games, right? You are emotionally attached to it, regardless of what like or what some people might think when you get angry, because you are emotionally attached to it, right?
Not just emotionally attached to it, actually financially attached to it as well.
Yeah, you want to see
So
it
yeah,
succeed because you succeed too, and that's a big
yeah,
thing.
of course.
And it's these. I don't think Creative Assembly realizes how badly they fuck not only themselves but other people who aren't getting
Oh, they
paid.
screwed us so badly with Warhammer 3. Holy crap.
Yeah,
That was the equivalent of like I'm fine. I'll be fine. But I don't think I've ever received such a significant pay cut as Warhammer 3. Like that just like took a kneecap to my paycheck.
mm,
I've never experienced that in my entire life. It's weird.
Yeah, I can say my earnings went down pretty heavily, and it
It's
was
consistent
rising.
across the board. Everybody suffered. This is why I'm trying to prop up the smaller creators as much as I can. It's exhausting, but it's not their fault. It's just exhausting to try to help so many people in as little that I can do. Because if I don't do it, I'm worried they're going to leave, and I don't want them to leave. I want them to stay,
Oh yeah,
and because the community is better with more people in it. You know, if I'm the only Total War YouTuber, I think that'll be a really sad career. I don't want that at all.
yeah,
I want there to be more people. I want there to be somebody out there that's really giving me a run for my money.
yeah. It's one of these things where like I talk to some creators and they're like, oh yeah, because this, because that, and they're just fucking off to different games and so on. The problem with me, and I can be very honest with you guys as my viewers, I'm not interested in a lot of things.
Me too. Yeah, I have a very narrow uh, interest scope.
Yeah,
Very narrow.
like
It's
big,
basically Total War and games that are pretty similar to Total War and women. That's about it. That's all I'm interested in
yeah,
life and food. Yeah,
and
very very simple tastes.
and because like I don't know if you got it, but like when the drama started in I think what 3.1, yeah, because 3.1 was when the garbage started happening again. I was like, I'm feeling kind of better. I was like, oh, and people commenting, it was just play other games. It's like, I don't want to fucking play other games. This is the problem. Like,
Yeah. Well, I understand that because that's what I was like, but I have now been forced to play other games. And you know what? There are some great games out there.
no, there is. But I don't see a Baldur's Gate video in my foreseeable future on my channel because I feel like I'm not going to bring anything new to the table than other creators are
Well,
doing.
you understand that your core competency is Total War and Warhammer,
Hmm.
which is what I understand. I'm not going to become a Fortnite YouTuber or a Blizzard YouTuber because that's not my core competency. I
Exactly.
understand that. For better or worse, I'm here for Total War.
Yeah. And I try. Like a lot of people are like, oh, why are you still like trying? It's like because look, not only is it Total War, like Total War, my first Total War game was Rome One, but my real deep emotional connection to this is Warhammer Fantasy. But this is the thing that is bringing back Warhammer Fantasy to me. And hell, I even heard some really fucking weird rumors that Warhammer the Old World was because I was still one of those people saying it's coming this year. I had a real big feeling it was coming this year, and now all the rumors, including Valrak, going, it's going to be next year. And I'm thinking, did Shadows of Change fuck up so badly that they scared even Games Workshop?
I don't know.
Because it honestly sounds like it. I'm starting to believe it.
I can't imagine the Games Workshop is happy about what's happening with Total War Warhammer 3.
It can't
I
be.
can't imagine. They must have been happy with Warhammer 2
Yeah,
because it was bringing interest back to Warhammer Fantasy, and now interest is going up. Like you said, we're getting a second End Times. This End Times is not a quick death, though. This is a very slow, drawn out death.
yeah, and it's kind of
There's
scary.
still time to turn it around as well.
I think so. I feel like patches need to come out faster.
It's not just patches. It's not like, oh, instead of 3 patches a month, do 10 patches a month. The patches need to be more radical.
Yes.
We need to
Yeah.
see serious changes. If we want to do 1 patch every 6 months, then make that patch count.
Yeah.
We need a patch that counts. We need a potion of speed. We need a potion of brain. Where's that?
Yeah.
Give the AI some brain. Um, Give us another siege rework, if you can. I'm sure there's limitations to the engine. Here's another one that I'd really like. How about heroes actually have 50 skills to invest into? That would be nice.
Yeah.
There are so many heroes that just don't have enough skills, and I don't want to put things into their blue line.
Yeah.
They've got one line of skill and then that's it. They're maxed out by level 20.
Yeah.
You're not giving people incentive to play the late game. You max out at turn 30.
Yeah. That's very
What's the
true.
point? What's the point in increasing the level cap? And the thing is, there's modders that do all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's easy for them, it seems.
Oh, actually, speaking about modders, so when I was speaking to Cody, he came up with something, and I tell you what, like my brain melted, and I hate the idea, but I want to ask you what you think. Do you think that Total War should do paid mods, kind of like a Skyrim Creation Club situation?
No,
Because
no,
like
I don't think they should do that.
Yeah, he suggested it, and I was like, that's something that CA would do in terms of laziness, but it would also just like,
That opens up a whole can of worms, I guess.
yeah,
I don't think they should do it. I think. Well, hang on. Let's just think about this. It could be a way for modders to actually make some money, for sure. But what it would probably do is pave the way for extreme creative assembly laziness, where all they will do
mm,
is they'll release the most mundane campaign,
yeah,
and then just be like, okay, modders, here's $1 a mod sort of thing. And then instead of nickel and diming you for DLC, which they have to make, they just act like Steam. They just take 30, 40, 50, 60, probably 90%
yeah.
of what the mod makes, and they do absolutely no work. It could potentially open up for a lot of abusive greed from Creative Assembly. So I will not support that.
See what you've
If
just
there's a mod that
described.
support, I think you should try to support them through Patreons or whatever.
Yeah, Patreon, PayPal, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which apparently they can't have
Can't,
on their
don't
mod
don't let
page.
Creative Assembly be the middleman. Don't let them be the middleman.
But you see, everything that you've just described is what you referenced from Terminator's video. Like, just they're not getting paid.
Yeah, I don't know. This isn't something I've given a lot of thought. You
No,
you
no, no,
kind
no,
of
no,
ambushed me with that one.
no, but that just made
my
me
initial
feel like
yeah.
if Terminator's video is true, like if all that stuff is true, which you never know, right? Like, I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he's lying and stuff. By the way, it's just the case of
He's not, by the way.
yeah, no, but
Go.
like, it's always good to come in with different perspectives. That just sounds,
Absolutely, sure.
but that just sounds like already there's the death knell for Pharaoh, and it's just like, god damn, that's kind of scary.
Well, I think Pharaoh is doomed. That's what I think. I've been looking at the data, and I can't see it surviving long. I think it's going to underperform what Creative Assembly expected in the first place, which is a shame. I like CA Sophia,
Yeah,
but I just don't see. Like, I think that if they had charged it reasonably, that would have been. It could have been fine.
yeah,
I think that charging full game price for this was just totally unacceptable. Most of the comments about this isn't worth $60, which I agree. I wouldn't pay that much for Troy, and we're getting Troy again. In fact, I got Troy for free, and I still kind of felt ripped off. But yeah, in terms of mods, it is an interesting discussion, but I think it's real. We need to be very careful about letting Creative Assembly monetize mods
yeah,
because that will only make them worse in the long run.
yeah. They say because
Don't let Creative Assembly profit off other people's hard work
yeah,
for
especially
for no effort. Don't let them do it.
we get
If you
DLC
want to support
quality.
mods, you know, donate to them,
Yeah,
donate to their Patreon to keep the modding community alive that way. Don't let Creative Assembly be a middleman.
so Creative Assembly made it harder for modders to have visibility in terms of PayPal and Patreon on their mod pages, and I think they claimed it was a Games Workshop thing. I fucking don't think so, man. Like, why would Games Workshop care? You're keeping people playing, you know? It's not like
Creative Assembly, you can't trust anything that Creative Assembly says. They're proven to be dishonest. So maybe it was the case, maybe it wasn't. But you can't trust anything that they say. The only thing that you can do with Creative Assembly is trust that what they've done, that they did something. If they say they're going to do something, don't believe it until it's actually done.
yeah,
Because they will tell you anything that they think that you want to hear in order to get you to behave a certain way. I've learned this the hard way. It's such a shame that they just absolutely 100% cannot be trusted. They are so dishonest.
it is one of these things because I don't know, man. I feel like honesty is the best policy. I don't know, maybe.
Well, here's another thing as well, is that if you break people's trust so many times, it's really hard to get it back.
Yeah,
Really hard. So if you are at least kind of honest, or if your dishonesty at least appears kind of mistaken, it's like, oh, we weren't being dishonest, we just got it wrong.
yeah,
It doesn't appear that way. It's like you deliberately twist the truth to try to get people, like with Shadows of Change, costs are up, ton of new units, premium DLC. Fuck off with that.
Yeah.
Serious bullshit. Just deceitful, despicable lies.
it honestly, the costs are up thing is just it pissed me off because like their financials they're on a high, aren't they? They're actually on a pretty decent high.
Well, not anymore.
Well, no, yeah, I mean 100 million, but
Well, this is the thing. They did this with the Future of Three Kingdoms video. They're like, we have finished our content for Three Kingdoms. No, you didn't. Three Kingdoms got canned. You had more stuff planned. they expected that everyone was just going to buy these excuses. Um, it's not that costs were up. They just couldn't bear face to say that, hey, we're not making as much profit because of our other failing idea. We need to compensate elsewhere. I don't think people are going to swallow that, but that is at least honest.
Yeah. I mean, didn't I'm not too sure because like again, I don't follow too many companies, but didn't a company recently go out and say, "Hey, we're not making so much money lately," and stuff? There was something about it. I just can't remember. It was a few months ago, I think.
I haven't heard of that. But it would be interesting to see how the community would respond to something like that. The thing is with Total War, we've never seen it happen. If Creative Assembly was actually saying, "Hey, we've had a really bad fiscal year, we're in trouble, we have to raise the price. We hope you understand," that would be so weird coming from them,
Yeah,
rather than them just like make up these lies like, "Oh, we put in more effort into this than usual," and blah 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 blah. Just lies that just come so easy to them as well.
it's just like more effort and stuff. Every faction in Shadows of Change uh, felt pay to win, right?
Well, yeah, they put the power creep in there because that gives you a reason to buy it.
Yeah, but like
That's obvious tactics. I mean, that's one area where I kind of just let them have it. They've got to give you a reason to buy it. So usually deals, like if you take the best performing DLC compared to the worst performing DLC, the best performing stuff has pay to win stuff in it. Who the hell is going to play Skaven without Prophet and Warlock, you know? And you look at Hunter and Beast, there's nothing pay to win in there. Um, at least when it first came out.
I kind of like
So
Marcus though. I think Marcus is kind of fun.
Marcus has a rough campaign, and he doesn't really have any global bonuses. He's got nothing to offer the Empire, and if you're going to get him, you've already won the Empire campaign. So, um, it's not quite the same,
Mm.
you know.
I mean, it's just it felt different, and a lot of the Empire factions, like let's be honest, they're the
Don't get me
same.
wrong. It's good DLC,
Hmm.
kind of. Well, it's better now than it was before, especially now that Nakai's got his Croxagors back. Um,
How long did that take?
it must have been at least two Charlemagnes.
Yeah.
Yeah, costs are up, dude. It's costing more Charlemagne's than ever. Remember the Jabba Scythe? Anyway, um,
Right. Okay. I want to
yeah,
ask
it's
you.
go on.
All the rumors about like Total War 40K. Do you believe them?
Yes, I fully believe it because it makes sense. I don't believe rumors based on like bullcrap,
Hmm.
but Warhammer Fantasy Total War made Creative Assembly tons of money, and the Warhammer 40K community is like four times larger, and they are very shut up and take my money. So this is an untapped cash cow because there is nothing that is like really drawing their money.
Yeah.
And if they make a Total War Warhammer 40K, that is essentially a beefed up version of Dawn of War Soulstorm. Let's say
Yeah.
Dawn of War Soulstorm with the Apocalypse mode. Let's just say that.
Oh, that's such a good
Um,
mod.
if they use that as like a baseline and then just dial it to 100, it's just easy money, and that's easy money for longer than Total War Warhammer Fantasy would
Yeah.
have given it to them. So, from a pure money perspective, it would be stupid of them not to chase that. So because Creative Assembly is money first company,
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if they weren't sitting in the back room jerking off to the idea of Warhammer Total War 40K.
Yeah. Could you imagine paying 25 euros for fucking uh, skins? You know, a chapter.
And the thing is, I think that the Warhammer 40K community might actually buy that kind
Oh,
of
they
stuff.
would. They fucking
So
would.
yeah, so I would say that even if Total War Warhammer 40K was not very good on launch, which it's a CA game,
Hmm.
it's not going to be.
No. No.
CA would be silly not to at least give it a shot. The risks are far outweighed by the rewards.
Oh yeah. It's just it worries me because obviously Shadows of Change wasn't great, and I'm thinking about that for the future. Where first up, they will now that we've got skin DLC essentially for Pharaoh. The moment they announced that, I put a video going, "This is a red flag," because it's like I was thinking about 40K in the future, like going, "Oh, just imagine soul drinkers, and they just charge you 10 euros for a recolor.
You know what? That's a good point. But you know what's going to be hilarious
Mm.
is when Warhammer 40k comes out with no blood.
Oh, for fuck's sake, yeah.
You know what that's going to be like? Well, we have to make this palatable for kids. You
It,
know, the most bleak future of mankind, where it's basically a fascistic overlord. Make sure it's okay for kids. We got to
yeah.
sell the blood pack for $10 because costs are up. That's going to be interesting to see, especially considering every single Warhammer 40k game
Yeah.
in history has been like gory as fuck.
Yeah.
No, Blood Pack and Dawn of War, and Dawn of War in many ways, Dawn of War 1
Yeah.
sold way better than Total War.
Yeah. That was a fucking
That was a
awesome game.
phenomenon, and they can replicate that because there hasn't been anything like it since. Dawn of War has been killed thanks to Relic and Dawn of War
There are
3.
rumors coming out again, and very, very strong ones. It's not like. First up, yes, it originally was only just Valrak with his tinfoil hat, but Valrak has been right more now than he has been wrong, and that's because someone is outright telling him. And these rumors are now. I'm hearing these rumors too, so it's like, ooh, these got
Dawn of War
weight.
4.
Like Dawn of War reboots, essentially.
Mhm.
And I tell you what,
Well, what that could do is basically, if they make like a Dawn of War remaster, that could be sort of warming things up for Dawn of War 40k because Relic and Creative Assembly have the same parent company, Sega. So this could be an overarching plan
that's
to,
true,
to sort of warm them up a little bit beforehand.
but
Because, yeah, go on.
Sega just recently gutted Relic by like 50%. Like a lot of people got lost. Funny enough, more or less what we're going to, I'm imagining at this point. But yeah, Companies or Heroes apparently performed so poorly that they decided to
Relic has
hire.
not done a very good job over the past few titles. I think they did okay with Age of Empires 4, but I don't think it was spectacular in terms of their numbers. But I've sort of lost interest with Relic after what happened with Dawn of War 3. The funny thing is, I liked Dawn of War 3, which is, I know it's a weird take.
Hmm.
But I think I liked it for what it could have been, not what it actually was. And I really wanted to see the Necrons introduced. And I was always disappointed that they didn't actually do that promised content because they hinted to it.
Yeah, it was like the thing is they tried to reinvent the wheel because you had Dawn of War 1, typical RTS, Dawn of War 2, which was more real-time tactics, I guess, and then Dawn of War 3 just
The
turned into
squad based
yeah,
tactics, yeah.
and then Dawn of War 3 turned into a fucking MOBA, which I don't know. I think what killed the game for me is the moment I saw Angelos do a fucking backflip in Terminator armor. I was like, that is not possible, you fucking bastards.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well,
Sad.
like I said, I enjoyed it, but I definitely think that Dawn of War 1 was best. And I think they should have just basically made a better graphical game of Dawn of War 1
The
and maybe
story
make
was
it a
good
bit
too.
higher, a bit larger scale. Because like Dawn of War 1 Dark Crusade is probably in terms of vanilla, the definitive Dawn of War experience.
Yeah,
That's what really puts it on the map.
such a good campaign. Like holy shit.
Yeah, really good. And the campaign for Dawn of War 3 was just not that.
The story was badly written. I don't know. Like they had a Games Workshop writer for it, and it's like usually yes, Games Workshop writers
It
are
was
fairly
weird
competent.
because having the three races, orcs, Eldar, and humans work together, that would never have happened.
No, like
They
maybe
would
the
have
Eldar and the
they
Space
would have
Marines.
they might have had the same goals, but they would not have been standing side by side.
Yeah, all because
I
of a
don't
single
think.
demon. Like, nah, the orcs would have charged in
No.
head first and do that, you know.
Yeah,
But
no, the orcs would not have stopped smashing for a moment to think about things. No, no. So it was a bit weird.
it's what happens with Warhammer games in general. Though I'm sure you've heard the thing. Anytime a Warhammer game releases, there's a coin flip, right? And that decides if it's going to be fucking garbage or one of the best games of all time. And it happens. Like Darktide, now they're trying to bring players back. They're even going for a marketing campaign, fucking hiring
Really,
people
they're
back.
trying to bring players back. I
Yeah.
didn't think they'd try to do that.
So a class overhaul patch came out a few days ago, from the time of posting this video, and it's not bad. It's still not everything that was promised.
Well, I think Darktide has a good chance of winning people back over time. I think they started really badly, and that they can eventually build their way back up. It's just a matter of time and resources that they put into it and just getting to work and try to make it better than Vermintide. Because Vermintide's kept its play numbers pretty steadily throughout the years because
Yeah,
it's been looked after very well. And I wish that companies would realize that if they looked after their IPs and looked after their games, they can actually make a lot of profit off them relatively cheaply. But a lot of the times, they don't look after them.
at all, at all. It's kind of scary because it happens way too often. Like, the Dark Side thing broke my heart because it was in such a good momentum. Like, hell, man, I was streaming that for fucking 14. My longest stream was 15 hours long, man. Literally just because I was having fun. And then the coin dropped when they were like, oh, none of the stuff that we promised is able to be out in release or shortly after. It's going to take a while. Almost a fucking year later, we still don't have all the shit that was promised. It's like, god damn it, dude. Like, way to
Yeah,
kill
that
it.
momentum is going to be difficult for them to win it back, but they could still do it. I think they could.
Let's hope.
But it's never going to reach the sort of 100,000 concurrent player mark. That's
Oh,
not
no.
going to happen, no matter how good the game gets. If you have a bad launch, you pretty much throw that out the window. See what Larian have done with BG3. They've got that 100,000 concurrent player count for what? They've had it for 2 months now. This is
It's
ridiculous.
insane, yeah. It's so. But I think it's mainly because like you could tell there was a lot of love, and I've seen some people argue it's like, oh, because they had an early access for for that long. It's like, still they got the fucking job done right. How many
Yeah,
things in the end?
how they got it done, I don't think really matters. The
Yeah,
fact they got it done. Um,
yeah.
and if the early access helps, then why don't other companies do that? Imagine if Warhammer 3 had an early access, you know, 6 months before release,
Hey,
and that
Mortal
people could have
Empires had the
seen.
beta tag.
Oh god, that was another case of Creative Assembly dishonesty. So guys, just to let you know, Immortal Empires is actually still in beta. The
Yeah,
way, what's the difference between now and then? In fact, it's in worse shape now. The reason that they put it in beta is to silence criticism. If
yeah,
somebody said, "Hey, this isn't as good as Mortal Empires," they could say, "Well, it's a beta."
yeah.
It's just dishonest. Um,
It's really sad because honestly, do open betas and stuff. Hell, Frontier did one for Realms of Ruin, right? And it was only for like a weekend long. That was during when I was in TwitchCon, and they took so much feedback from it that they literally have been like non-stop saying, "Hey, you guys mentioned this, it's fixed. Hey, you guys mentioned this, it's fixed." And the devs are
I think that
constantly,
the devs actually want to do that kind of stuff, but I think what's happening is that the game has got a lot of tech debt now. Tech debt.
hmm,
Um, that I think that the people working on patches now are like it's like an intricate web of things where if they just touch one thing, the whole thing sort of falls apart. It's like a Jenga tower that's so tall that they're like, we can't really change anything here.
yeah,
Which is a shame if they've got that much tech debt. You just can't do anything with it then. That if that is the case, that means that Warhammer 3 has reached its pinnacle and that it's all downhill from here. That's unfortunate if that is the case, because that's what they've been indicating with their spaghetti code. They
yeah,
make excuses for it, but that's not. People shouldn't play a game. Oh, this game sucks, but
yeah.
they're trying. It's not going to cut it for very long.
It does worry me, honestly. It really, really does. Because like I was one of the loudest voices in terms of, oh, I want Koresh, I want Ind, I want Nippon, I want all this. And people ask me now, I'm like, I just want the game to fucking work, man. Like,
Yeah, I'm like that too. I mean, I'd like to see all those different races. They've got the space for them on the map,
yeah,
but I'm not sure if we're going to get them because we're normally not going to get them this year because they've already got planned DLC up until mid next year,
yeah,
early next year, and then I think that they'll do a corn one after that because well, corn is the one that in least need of it.
yeah.
Um, but
There's not really much they could even add to him.
the thing is, they like their templates. They've got a new template, which is really just the old template, except the FLC has been merged into it,
Yeah,
um, premium. So they'll probably want to chug along because they very rarely change their plans.
yeah.
So expect a Slanesh and a Korn DLC, and then maybe Ind or Kuresh. Probably Ind would be first.
I don't think so. I don't think those are coming. I think we'll get the Dogs of War because I have a feeling that they wanted to do Dogs of War originally in Warhammer 2, and then they decided, no, we're just going to move that on because how quickly and suspiciously did Shadows of Change come out, and then there was new lines of code. You heard about that, right?
I didn't. I heard about it, but I don't look into it. So, all right. If you say that it's most likely Dogs of War, I'll believe you. Yeah.
The instantly, just in the most suspicious way possible, the DLC came out, and then the patch had two new entries for fucking, I think it was Borco the Besieger and Belladonna. So it's like, oh, okay, so we know a legendary lord and a legendary hero now. So it's like,
Wouldn't
well,
that be interesting if the new race comes out? $25, 25 euros, one legendary lord. One. And what if half of their roster was reskinned units?
oh yeah, it's going to be mostly humans, so
Yeah. They'll just be like, hey, look, you've now got Dogs of War swordsmen, which are just reskinned
Empire State
Empire
Troops, yeah.
swordsmen.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? More races is definitely a good thing as long as they're implemented well. But
If they could do
we'll
races
see.
like the quality of like the Chaos Dwarfs, because I still stand by the fact that I really love the Chaos Dwarf DLC. Like I think
Estos
it's
are great,
really
yeah,
good.
for sure.
Uh,
Yeah, I think the price was maybe a little bit high, but given inflation and their situation, that was you could swallow that.
yeah,
People could have swallowed Shadows of Change price increase if it wasn't so severe.
yeah,
And like I said, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. They just went too hard with it. I think they would have made more money if they sold it for 20 euros. I don't think that would be an appropriate price.
yeah,
I think that 15, like 5 euros a lord is kind of, yeah, we can accept that.
yeah. I mean, it normally sells for what, 12, 13, or something like that, right?
I think yeah, I think it was like $10 the previous Lord packs, but then you've got to take inflation into consideration.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
just
think the last one was Silence and Fury. That was 12. That was 12 Australian dollars, so I think it was 10 euros,
mm,
I think, when it
see
first came out.
that
They've
was
increased prices over time for at least the race packs they have.
that was a great fucking DLC too. That was really good
That was
quality.
the best race rework.
Yeah,
And don't you just love all the reworks that we got with Shadows of Change?
yeah. I I got really angry at that because they did the roadmap said it's like, oh yeah, race updates and stuff like that. It's like, well, what the
Yeah, they
fuck's the
did. They got
update,
race
man?
updates. They got one or two things tweaked. They technically didn't lie. Okay, don't be mean to Creative Assembly. They technically didn't lie this time.
It reminds me of when I did my dissertation. At one point, I literally just took a word out and put a full stop. I was like, well, I've done some work today. It's like, god damn it, man! Like,
Technically not untrue.
it's just a shame. We're expecting Thrones of Decay as per the roadmap in December. Do you think that's still going to happen?
Yes, I think it will happen because Creative Assembly need finances. They need money, so they need to get this out. Especially considering that Hyenas isn't coming. It was what's scheduled for November, so that's a big amount of income that they were expecting that's not going to happen. I don't think Pharaoh is going to meet their sales targets, so they need something. So they need Warhammer stuff to get out. If anything, they might ramp it up a little bit because they don't have anything else going for them. Pharaoh's not going to make them much money.
Yeah. See, one thing I always wanted, and I said in a perfect world, we'd get 4 DLCs a year, so every quarter. And
Well, I tell you what, as a community, we can enforce that. All you have to do is not buy any of their other products. You can hold Creative Assembly their balls in a vice with this kind of stuff. If you don't buy their other products, they'll have no choice but to make the one product that actually sells money.
yeah, but my
I'm not
worry,
suggesting that's what you should do. You should always, just, if you want to buy something, buy it. But I'm saying if you're really invested in Warhammer and only Warhammer, don't buy the other stuff.
yeah. See, my worry is if they do ramp it up, or just in general, Thrones of Decay, is it going to be as empty as Shadows of Change was? Because like we all have some expectations, right? Like it's pretty much confirmed it's Tamokan, and I'm expecting cool shit if it's going to be Tamokan.
Surely Tamarkan. All the things are aligned for it to be Tamarkan because you've got an empire. Um,
Faction, yeah.
you've got the Chaos Dwarves are here now. So if you have a look at Tamarkan's campaign, what does he do? He fights against Drazoath the Ashen, joins forces with Drazoath the Ashen, goes towards Nuln.
Yeah.
Everything is in place now for that to happen. Not doing this, it would just be like just stupid. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Creative Assembly, but it'd just be stupid not to do Tamarkan and also have the Empire Lord be Elspeth.
Yeah, I mean,
Elspeth.
yeah,
That
it's
makes sense.
Elspeth, yeah. But like, there was already hints about it with Champions of Chaos because they mentioned like obviously it's centered around Azerbaijan and that's where Tamarkan's story starts. So I was like, okay, it is definitely coming up, right? But then again, rather than getting Egrim, we ended up getting a character like the Changeling, and it's like if we go by the army book standard, the character for Nurgle would be Epidemius. It's like, yeah, no, it's obviously it's a hypothetical there in that sense, but like it's the case of CA need to listen about what characters people want, because yes, while the devs might think, oh, this one's cool, go for the one that people are gonna really enjoy, like are
And
gonna
to do
make
the ones
money.
that have lore combinations, I think that's why Warden and Paunch was the peak
Yes,
of Total Warhammer 2, because
yes,
so often you've got lords matched up against each other that don't make sense. Like,
yeah,
classic example, Mal's Darkblade versus Snitch.
yes,
I like both lords, kind of. Um, didn't really make sense from a lore perspective. Warden and Paunch. Eltharion's entire existence is centered around Grom the Paunch, for the most part, and same thing with Grom the Paunch around Eltharion. And they made a really thematic campaign. Even though it had a lot of criticism at the time, it had the lore behind it, and it was really good. And the trailer was awesome.
yeah.
The voice acting was awesome, and they did a great job with it. If they go, it's Tamara and he's going to Nuln, and guess what? There's a new legendary lord in the Empire, and it's Elspeth, and people will be able to relive campaigns that they had from the tabletop or whatever.
Exactly. That's a big ticket seller, right? And it's just odd because, like, don't get me wrong, Yombo is cool. I think the reason why I like Yombo so much is because they did put effort to get a Black Library author, and I think that's what make the character so
But
cool.
didn't his quest in the game not match up with the
Oh God,
audiobook?
no, God, no, no, no
Yeah, so
nothing matched
why
up
do that then? Why
because
do that?
they clearly thought halfway through. Maybe already poor David had been done with the book, and they're like, "Oh, let's just change the story because fuck it, let's be wacky." You only live once.
But that doesn't work. It doesn't work. They did that with like the Realms of Chaos.
Yeah,
It's just wacky.
I hated the
It
Realms
doesn't
of
work.
Chaos story so much. It breaks so
It's
much lore.
it's it's dumb.
Yeah, and they're like,
It's
"Oh
it's it's
yeah,
okay for one or two times. The fact that they've all got the same story is really dumb.
yeah." It's just it's the law breaks for me. It really pisses me off. The whole thing, and it's really funny because like some people asked like some of the like the principal writer of CA and so on. It's like, hey, were you inspired by Arthas's story in Warcraft 3? No, this is completely unique. It's like, nah, boy, this is fucking Arthas. There's a magical
Oh yeah,
demon there and
when I was
everything.
playing the prologue campaign, which is a great campaign by the way, I was thinking to myself, I'm playing Warcraft 3 right now.
Yeah, it's literally Arthas. It's
Yeah.
almost identical. I was like, oh, this is
His
unique.
everything, he's just like Arthas. He's like, it starts off as a prince that is trying to save his homeland, and then he's like, I need more power to save my homeland, and then he's like, fuck my homeland, I'm gonna destroy it. Arthas.
Yeah. It's so it's good to be inspired by other pieces of art, right? Like everyone
Yeah.
does it. Hell, everything in Games Workshop is literally stolen from other IPs. Like
Yeah, I
everything.
don't think that's really a bad thing as long as you're not unapologetically pretending it's your own original stuff. If
Yeah,
it's like taking the piss, like what was that Tillian general, Julio Kaiser or whatever,
yeah,
Julio Caesar, like it's taking the piss. That's fine. You can get away with it as long as people realize, yeah, you're just taking a nod to real history um and referencing other fantasy stories. That's totally fine. But when you
God.
pretend like it's not, then people aren't going to buy it.
If you want to see everything that's just basically taken from real history, if you ever get the chance, read the Dogs of War Army book. It's hilariously fucking cringe. Like not hyenas cringe, I
Right.
mean actual funny cringe. Like they take the Cornetto meme song and put it in there and everything. It's hilarious.
Oh,
I
okay.
love that book so much. I shit you not. Every time I think
Yeah,
of the
that kind
Dogs
of
of
stuff can
War,
actually be really funny when it's like that. Some people won't like unoriginal stuff like that, but that's fine.
yeah, you got Richard Kruger, an undead captain, or Michael Jackson, It's
Oh, right. Yeah.
it's a flaming fucking undead warrior and stuff. Stuff is cool, man. Like That's what makes Warhammer so fun, right? Way too many people take it seriously now.
Yeah.
You see the 40k
Yeah,
fans
you can't
going.
take Warhammer seriously a lot of the time.
Yeah,
It's just supposed to be spectacle and it's a lot of fun.
exactly. That's why we got giant fucking demons with, well, they're not supposed to have hanging tits. You can see it on my face, like on the artwork. But the Creative Assembly decided to give them bras and shit because I don't know.
Yeah, the age, right? How much would it not make sense the fact that they sell blood to keep the rating down, but then they would have nudity in the game?
Didn't Mandalore disprove that though about the Blood DLC? Like for
Oh no,
Warhammer?
that's absolute bullcrap. But they say that the reason they do the blood pack is to keep so that kids will buy the game, basically. But that is total bullcrap.
Yeah,
That is a reason. So what happened with that is that Creative Assembly just started selling the blood separately because profit.
yeah.
And then people in the community would say, "Oh, they're doing this to keep the age rating down." And then Creative Assembly goes, "Oh, that's a great idea. Let's retroactively say that was the reason for us doing it."
Yeah.
And so now they say that's the reason for them doing it when it never was.
Okay, so
You know.
here's an idea for CA, right? If you want to make a little bit of money, nudity DLC. Just
Well, I actually thought that the blood pack, if they wanted to really make it work, this is before it came out. I think they should have called it the blood shit and tit pack.
see that would have
So
been
you got the
cool.
blood for Korn, shit for Nurgle, and tit for Slanesh. But Zinch gets nothing. So what are you gonna get for Zinch? That's
Uh, fuck all, to be honest. I'm not a big
yeah, yeah.
fan.
The thing is, blood, shit, and tit sounds similar to blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's perfect
See, I
rebranding.
could market for Creative Assembly. Get me a job. You can't afford me. Anyway,
But yeah. Anyways, before we
maybe
go,
they'll do that for Warhammer 40k.
hey, you never know. You never know. You could end up being I don't know. They're doing all these weird marketing things. So they're sending someone to fucking Egypt now. Maybe they'll send you to the moon to market 40.
We never really talked about that Egypt stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. We should talk about it
It was
actually.
just like one of the first things we said we'd come back to, and we never got to it.
Yeah, so you guys might be noticing now, they've got a comedian. I'm not a fan of his. I know there's a lot of people who are. I just don't find him funny. But like the sending a comedian over to Egypt to do this whole documentary, mockumentary, I think is probably better the word, for Total War Pharaoh. They did this for Rome Remastered. Same dude, by the way. I feel like it's a bit of a waste of quite valuable company funds. What do you think?
Probably is in hindsight, but I also think that this stuff was probably recorded well before the announcement of the layoffs. It's just unfortunate timing that it's coming out.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of odd when like I don't think anyone like reacted to Phil really well with the Rome remastered stuff. So it's kind of like read the room. People didn't really.
Creative Assembly doesn't read the room though. Have you seen the Pharaoh trailer?
Yeah.
80% of it is shit being rolled up a hill by a dung beetle. They're not good at reading the room.
See, I understand why they did the whole dung beetle thing. It's a historical reference.
Most of us can understand it, but the point that we're trying to make is that
Oh yeah, it doesn't make for
the
good
whole
cinema.
the very first impression that people have of a game, you need to make it count. You look at Warhammer 3 trailer, right? Dead bodies rolled in the cart, ice.
Yeah.
You see Katarин straight away. You see the four demons straight away. You see the advisor straight away, but you don't realize it's the advisor.
Yeah.
You see bears charging corn right away,
Yeah.
fighting demons right away, fighting a exalted bloodthirster right away, and then Cathay gets revealed at the end. All of these things, all in it. What do you get in Pharaoh? Poop. Lots of poop. Lots of poop.
It's
Um,
odd. It's so,
Weird.
it like because like the end of the trailer, right? The end of the Pharaoh trailer when you see Ramses and his army charging to meet the enemy, like if they would have just done a fucking massive battle sequence for like 3 minutes, people would have been like, hell yes.
The thing is, the trailer for Total War Pharaoh would have been better if you had just cut out all of that poop stuff
Yeah.
and just put in that him standing up and charging, and the trailer would have been 10 seconds long. That would have been better.
So I'll tell you something quite interesting. You know the other thing, like when you start a campaign, there's another trailer, right? Which has got like the Pharaoh choking on a grape and stuff. I actually thought that
Right.
that was going to be like the trailer. because that looks like it sets the scene, right? This guy is old, he's dying out, shit's going to hit the fan. Obviously, he has to deal with his mortality by choking on a grape. Like, it kind of felt like that should have been the trailer rather than, shitbug, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it,
So
you should
much of
check it
what
out.
they've done with Pharaoh. I've seen the intro of it. I may not be interested in playing Pharaoh, but I do keep tabs on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I do watch it. I keep an eye on what's being in the game.
hmm,
So I'm not just talking out my ass when I say I'm not impressed with what I see of it. You know, I am watching people play it. I
yeah.
just don't enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not going to be for everyone, and it does seem. I do believe too, like there would be more hype for it if there wasn't just all this drama for Shadows of Change too, right? Like,
Yeah, again, another case of straw that broke the camel's back.
yeah,
Overpriced, having a bad rep at the moment. Hyena stuff. All of this stuff is just not in favor of Pharaohs. Everything is working against it, and all they have working for them is CA Sophia working their guts out. And unfortunately, I just don't think that's going to be enough in this case here.
yeah. It's a shame because they're a
They've
really
been
good
set up. They've
studio.
been set up to fail.
Yeah, and it worries me because like, if they get cut, they're gonna lose out. Like they're doing this whole one game a year situation, and one thing that I looked towards the saga in a favorable light was maybe the saga was going to reduce the stress of the main titles, which meant that there would be more time to work on the main titles, which is obviously not true because we've seen it. But a game a year is unrealistic, and CA should really stop
Unrealistic
doing
with
that.
their current tech.
Yeah,
So their tech is just too old now. They're working with old tech. It's not viable. The games that are coming out are not competitive with industry standards now. The industry has taken a bit of a leap and a jump in terms of the quality that's coming out. And you see what happened with Warhammer 3 when they tried to implement new lighting and stuff. It just causes huge problems. Their tech just can't handle new technology. So they could do yearly releases, but what they've got to do is go back and clean up their tech, make a good baseline for a Total War game, a really good Total War game. And I'm not talking just make Medieval 3, but it's really Warhammer 3's engine.
yeah,
Go and properly make Medieval 3
yeah,
and then reskin that every year if you want,
yeah,
or make a trilogy out of it. First game be Europe, second game be Asia, third game be America. I don't know, whatever.
yeah,
Do that kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with doing the trilogy, but you've got to make sure the base of the game is working well. And then if you've got that, then make whatever sagas you want out of it, and it's fine. But the problem is with Pharaoh is that they're working off Troy, which is reskinned Warhammer 2. It's just old now, which is reskinned Rome 2. They haven't really made a new game. Well, Three Kingdoms was fairly new. You really couldn't tell what game it was built on top of.
yeah.
So that was good. But then they threw that away after one game. Who knows? Maybe Medieval 3 will be the Three Kingdoms engine. Don't know.
I mean,
I hope it isn't.
I don't know if Medfrey is like anytime soon. To be honest, like there are rumors.
Who knows?
There are rumors of 3 titles though, and they're all fairly more or less the same in terms of like loudness. Medfrey, Empire 2, and one that I really don't want if it's true, World War One.
Yeah. I don't think it really matters. All three of those will sell, even if it's got tech debt. I just hope that they don't have it, that they've actually cleaned it up and it's a good baseline. They can actually work with it for a few more years, because it does seem like the current engines are falling apart at the seams. It's being held up by duct tape now. It's not good enough,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
mean,
a shame that Warhammer 3 is sort of ending like this.
yeah, but my main worry about the World War one, I know a lot of people do want it. It's more the fact like, look, CA are one of these companies that get scared when people post up like bikini character mods, right? How are they going to deal when people start literally having to cause genocide, right? Because that's what World War
Well,
One was, you know?
that happens in medieval times as well, and yeah, there's
Yeah, but not like
look. I think
chemical
that World
weapons and
War,
shit, you know?
yeah, but I'm not suggesting for them. Look, I don't think that they will do World War One next. I don't think they will, because they do tend to like to play it safe. They don't like to be adventurous. They'll only do that if they felt like they would make a shitload of money, and maybe it will. I don't know.
You never know. I
We'll
mean,
see.
it would definitely
People
be
are definitely
interesting.
crying out for Empire 2, though.
Honestly, I just all I want is a good fucking game, one that doesn't break at
Yep, me too.
launch. Yeah.
Yep. Oh well, let's be fair. We're gonna have broken games on launch, okay? Adjust your expectations. I would like it if 18 months after launch it wasn't broken.
God, has it
Yeah,
really
I
been
don't
18
think that's too
months?
much to ask. And Creative Assembly said, "Hey, it's only been 18 months, guys. We've still got 4 more years left. We'll eventually get there."
I can't believe it's been 18 fucking months. Oh my god.
It's been longer than 18 months now.
Jeez. That is absolutely terrifying, I'll be honest with you. Oh my god, why? And it's still in this state. This is the this is the issue, right? Holy
Yeah,
crap.
I remember when Warhammer 3, when we were getting Immortal Empires, and I was talking to Creative Assembly about it, and they were saying things like, "Oh, yeah, it took us years to get Warhammer 2 really in a good swing of things. You just got to give us time." Well, we've given you time now. It hasn't moved along anywhere.
You have more employees than you did back then. What are they doing?
No, not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That honestly, I think that they're gonna try and like I honestly think that that Sega are the ones doing it like they did to Relic, and I do worry for a lot of people because I have friends at CA, and I know
Well,
there's a
yeah,
lot of talent.
Sega's cracking the whip now.
Yeah,
Their Creative Assembly was just passively making the money. They were very hands off. But now that Creative Assembly is done fucked up, they're cracking the whip, which is usually what happens. If you do well, let's like think about it in terms of like children, right? If kids behave themselves, you give them a bit of leeway. But when they start to screw up, you got to crack the whip and get down and put the discipline down
yeah.
and like monitor what they're doing. And so now I've heard that people from like executives from Sega are basically permanently stationed at Creative Assembly because they're there to make sure that Creative Assembly gets results now because that trust has been broken. And Creative Assembly only has themselves to blame. They can't blame anyone else. They can't blame the market. They
Yeah,
should have read the market for one thing. If you don't
yeah,
read it, then that's your own fault.
yeah.
Everybody could have told them that it was a bad idea. But now that they've done fucked up this badly, they've lost $100 million. That's not a small amount. That's a
Yeah.
lot of Charlemagne's.
That's like you know how much Warhammer I could buy with 100 million? I could have like a full army of Deathcore Krieg, you
Do you know
know?
how many Charlemagne's you could have for $100 million? Jesus. Do you know how many Jabba slice that they could make for Warhammer with $100 million? Do you know how many Charlemagne's they could make for Charlemagne
Oh
with $100 million?
fucking
Instead, we've got dead hyenas everywhere. Doesn't make a cent.
yeah. It's a weird thing. Holy shit.
Yeah. So naturally, if Sega is footing the bill and their stock price is going down largely because of this, because I reckon Creative Assembly is the primary reason that
Yeah.
they're posting a massive loss. Relic obviously has a big part to play in it, but I mean, take Dawn of War 3 for example. That was shit,
Yeah.
but at least they sold the game.
Yeah.
Hyenas didn't even get sold. This is a catastrophic failure.
Well,
So Sega's cracking the whip, and they're going to tell Creative Assembly to basically cut the fat for
well,
it. And this will probably be oversight for quite a while, which could be a good thing. It
yeah.
could be a good thing to have Sega sit there and go, "You make better game, filthy gaijin." You know?
Wasn't Hyenas supposed to go free to play? I remember Sega.
Oh yeah. Again, refer to Voland's video. He actually goes over it. I think it was planned as a buy game, but at the very end they switched it to a free to play with microtransactions. Doesn't
Oh,
matter. Never came to be.
that's such a
Yeah.
death nail, though. Like
Yeah.
literally, oh, it's disgusting
Well, it
to think
died.
that, man. Oh no, yeah,
It died.
it's dead, and honestly, I'm looking forward to like the whole death of a game episode. You know, that should come out a good.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I don't really watch it very often, but yeah. It, is it a death of a game if it never lived? Oh, maybe it does.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
sometimes I think the dudes covered it. Like it usually because a lot of information comes out that is usually like hidden away to even the creators in that scene, and I'd be curious to find out like just what they were snorting to keep this idea going on for so long, you know?
But it's just ego. Like I can talk from personal experience about what ego does. I understand. If you are prone to having ego, you have to be constantly put into check. And like from my own personal experience, if you think you're hot shit
Mm.
and you just don't listen to criticism, you just chug ahead and you might be doing the wrong thing, which I
Yeah,
was doing.
yeah,
And you might just not realize it because you just think you're hot shit. So if you've got ego, you need to put things in place to constantly check yourself. And this is good now. Creative Assembly is going to have that ego checked constantly by Sega and also the community. Creative Assembly can't post anything without somebody throwing it in their face, all the mistakes that they've made. Good. Get their ego back in check so they're constantly questioning whether or not they're actually doing the right thing.
mm.
I mean, I would love to just not have to sit here and talk about Creative Assembly. I don't enjoy it. I don't wake up in the morning and go, yay, it's time to go criticize Creative Assembly again
Yeah,
today. I just can't wait. I can't wait for the day of the opposite where I can go, cool, Creative Assembly's back on track. I can chill. I can't wait for that day to happen again
yeah.
because I don't want to do it. But I feel like I have to do it because there's shit.
Yeah, no, I agree with that because the big reason why I've wanted to do this like little project and just getting other creators involved and so on is to show the fact that yeah, we are frustrated, we are tired. Hell, I had a ex-CA developer who was also frustrated and tired. We love this franchise and we feel like we are suffering possibly even worse because look, if we're negative,
Well,
we're
the
insulted.
executives, they aren't suffering. They're still going to get their big bonuses. That's part of the loss because if the executives, they get a big bonus, that they just write that off for the company taxes,
Yeah,
whatever. So they're still going to get those. Maybe it's not going to be as big as what it would, but it would be interesting to see if they actually replace any of the executives.
no, they fucking won't.
Of course not. No, none of the senior management, the people who are actually responsible for all of this, they're not going to get any repercussions. They might just not get their big bonus this year. Oh, poor rich person. You
Yeah.
didn't get to buy your Lamborghini this year. Fuck off. No one cares.
Yep. It sucks. Honestly, it fucking sucks. Because I get tired of it. I had to stop streaming. I've had to stop streaming because I,
And that's why I stopped streaming. I mean, I'm back now, but I don't want to be back.
yeah,
It's like I'm back every day after my streams. I'm like, oh, I know why I quit. It's exhausting. It's not a fun time to be a Total War streamer.
yeah,
But the main reason I'm back at the moment is because if I don't do it, I feel like we're going to lose some people. And I
yeah.
don't want to lose them.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to lose people. I think that as time progresses, we're going to lose people because this DLC came out when 31st of August, right?
Well, my thoughts are is that if I can save one channel from giving up, then what I'm doing is worth it. If I can just save one.
Yeah. No, no, I totally get you, but I'm just looking at it in terms of timing. This DLC came out 31st of August, right? The last day of the month.
Yeah.
Normally by that point then, given how the time is going, that means that we should be due patch 4.1 this month, right?
They're not going to do it during Pharaoh, so it'll be mid-October.
Yeah.
You know? It'll be about the time that Pharaoh's player numbers is lower than Warhammer 3, so that'll be October 12th.
Fuck yeah. You don't pull punches, man.
I don't pull punches. You want to get in the ring with me? I don't pull punches.
Yeah. But no,
I
no.
don't find pulling punches helps either.
Oh no, at
So
all,
I'm
at
a
all.
snarky little smartass.
But that means that if that's going to come out and if the patch is as bad as 3.1 and 4.0, we're going to get another loss of players. A
Yeah.
big one. That's what worries
Well, I
me.
hope they don't do that. Yeah.
That's what worries me
We'll
because
see.
it's just not enough time, not enough effort, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just sounding pessimistic, but like I'm tired, and like I know my viewers know I'm tired because when I get angry, it's very obvious, and I think now it's just defeat, not
Yeah,
anger.
so one way around that, and I fail at this sometimes as well, is that if you don't want to cry about it, try laughing at it. So that's
Mm,
what I try to do. I try to make a mockery out of CA
mm,
so that I don't get angry about it. I try to make fun of them, like the joke that I just made about October 12th. You obviously got that.
mm.
Um, because otherwise I get really angry about the situation, and that's not healthy. So if you can try to laugh at all of this,
Yeah,
it's healthier. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I just want to scream, but try to find humor in all of this, which is why I keep telling people to keep making memes. I love going onto the Reddit and seeing a nice juicy CA meme
Yeah.
because it makes me laugh, and laughing is contagious, and it's a way to feel a little bit happier.
Mm.
So I encourage people keep making memes. Don't put rant posts on the Reddit or whatever about CA sucks. That's not helpful.
Oh
Just
no.
make a funny meme. That's way better. You can take the piss out of them and make other people laugh, and I think that's a more positive way to go about it. Because if we can't laugh about it, all we can do is cry about it, and that's not going to help.
That's very true. That's very true. But yeah, I think we're gonna have to call it a day though because it is almost 7 a.m. and if I don't get a little bit of sleep in,
Yeah, fair enough.
someone
I,
might
I
actually
could chew.
die.
Yeah, I can do very long interviews. I've done a 4 hour interview before. I don't know. When it comes to Total War, I could just sit down and just talk non-stop.
Oh no, same, same. It's just
Yeah.
I'm working in the accident emergency.
Yeah, no, fair enough. How long has this been? Like 30 minutes?
It's 2 hours, 15 minutes. Honestly, we had a very good chat. I think we talked about
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, but
I I beat the dev. I got a longer interview.
you
Suck on
did,
that.
you did the
I'm
next
so
one.
competitive that I'm even competing for interview time.
So I'll put this out to the viewer base, guys. Just for a really stupid number, get this 10,000 likes, and I'll interview Rob Bartholomew next.
I would love to see you interview Robbie. Oh,
Definitely
that'd be
be.
great.
Could you imagine? I think they wouldn't fucking let me do it because I get like snarky too much, man. And
Of course, no, that's never gonna happen. But I would love to see that. You're never gonna see the executives come out of their ivory tower.
Oh, no, it's
The fact that we even got a blog. I don't even know if that was written by him. I reckon he just
oh, no.
like put the stamp of approval on him. He had someone else to write it.
Mm.
Um, they never come out of their cave because they are so unlikable. They know that they need to put the face of the company as just regular, friendly people to
Yeah.
make it seem like Creative Assembly is not this like ridiculously greedy company.
Yeah,
As soon as they come out, it's not a good look for them.
at
So they
all.
got to stay hidden. The brains of the company, and I use that word loosely,
Yeah.
remain hidden.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, I'll send them an email, all right? I'll give it the likes. I'll send them an email. I'll see
Yeah,
what I can
10,000
do.
likes. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll. I'd be very impressed if you managed to get an interview with him.
Hey, I'm very persistent. I'm very,
Yeah.
very persistent. Hell, before I got Cubicle 7 to confirm a lore theory that Games Workshop would have never confirmed in like 1,000 years, but the sleeper being a Tragara thing. So I'm that's my claim to fame
Oh,
now, man. That's my claim to fame.
nice.
I'm very proud of that. But
So,
anything
yeah.
anything you'd like to tell everyone before we call it a day?
No, I think I've said enough. I think I want everyone in the community to try to treat each other better. People have been pretty good about it,
Mm.
but if you disagree with anyone in the community, it's no reason to get upset about it. It's all a good discussion to have. I think it's important to subject ourselves to conflicting opinions. I think echo chambers are a huge problem, and that we shouldn't. Like, I want people who disagree with me to comment on my videos. Just don't be vile about it. Don't
Yeah.
be just. You can convey your information without insults, but I would encourage people to do so.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's the
prove
best
me
way.
wrong. I'd love for people to prove me wrong.
Yeah.
It's happened before.
Yeah, it's honestly the best thing. Dialogue is good. Just don't sound like a fucking twat about it because there's a lot of people in the
Exactly.
comments
Yeah.
like that. It's
You're
I've
a
been
legend. You sound like a twat.
dude. People complain. It's like you use that vape so much. It's like, of course I'm addicted to nicotine. Fuck off. Like I've
Yeah.
been smoking since I was 12 years old. Fuck's sake. At least I'm using it less.
If people are gonna
Yeah.
take jabs at your personal appearance.
Oh
That's,
yeah.
that's just life.
Yeah. It's how it
Unless
is.
unless you're perfect like me,
Yeah.
you're never gonna. You're never. Yeah. You're never gonna get any. Yeah. Anyway.
But well, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.
Okay. See ya.